بسم الله الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the R2F show. If you've seen the description in the video, you know what we're talking about today. So we're just going to kind of jump right into it. Just to give some background and context to why we're doing this video is that we had a guest on some weeks back in 2025. He's a self-proclaimed Sufi. He's part of the New Keller Tariqa. He follows his sheikh is New Keller. If anybody knows who he is. And pretty much he was on our show because he released a video praising a known cult leader, a cult leader of our previous cult, Mubarak Jelani, praising him and praising the cult, praising Sufi. He does this stuff on Instagram where he praises various Sufi groups and various Sufi sheikhs, right? That's like his thing. And also teaching Sufism, you know, and whatever. Good guy, nice guy, very cordial, respectful, seems very intelligent. We had a nice conversation, but basically we had him on our show because after we educated him about the cult leader, he retracted his statements, and we just wanted to have him on the show to kind of just clarify a few things about the cult and also give some perspective from the Sufi side of things of what are some red flags to look at when you're dealing with spiritual abuse, cults, deviancy, from the Sufi end, because, you know, we get labeled as Wahhabis, Salafis, or whatever. So we wanted somebody from the Sufi side to say some of the things so people say, oh, he's saying some of the same things that they are saying. Of course, we were trying our best. We don't get many guests. Not many people have the courage. So we give him the respect that he had the courage to actually come on our show. Maybe not so much now when we'll get to that, but at least he came on our show, and we don't get many guests. So we you know, we try to do our best. We try our best to be respectful, give him a platform to speak without trying to interrupt him and interjecting and jumping in every time he said something that we clearly disagreed with and clearly was wrong. Islamic, like pushing some of that Sufiness, that extreme Sufiness. So we're here to address some of those things now. In the future, just so you guys know, we're learning as we go. Inshallah, this wouldn't happen again. We're going to address it right on the show with the guests so that we don't have to do a follow-up show and waste a week's worth of content just addressing some things that we should have addressed right when they were said, you know, because we don't want people to go away from our content more confused or thinking something that we didn't speak on is actually correct when it is very, very wrong, especially dealing with our audiences who are coming from a Sufi background and looking at people like him as like some kind of, you know, safe spot to land as far as listening to their positions, listening to their content, like, oh, this is cool. It's not the bad stuff I dealt with. This guy's okay. The stuff he's preaching is okay. It's kind of like, you know, out of the frying pan into the pot, or however that saying goes. That's what people are doing. Even people that are really, you know, members of our group, we've seen were clearly following this guy and absorbing his content and liking his content. Was like, oh no, you shouldn't be listening to what he's saying. So with that, I'm just going to jump in, and we got a lot of stuff to cover. So this is what we're going to do for this show. I'm going to play the clips. So we're not going to we usually like, oh, stop right there. We kind of like address everything. We're just going to play the clip and then address it afterwards and just kind of work our way through it, inshallah, and get through. So, and Amr, you had something to say that you wanted to address the audience with while I kind of get set up here.
All right. So first things first, obviously we commend our brother Karim Kocsenda for coming on the show. Joff mentioned this earlier, but very few people have the courage to actually come on the show. I will say, though, it wasn't like he came on the show to defend his beliefs or what he believed in with his Sufi leader, Sheikh New Keller. So we had that clarified. He was here to right the wrongs that he posted publicly about someone he wasn't familiar with, right? And we'll see this oftentimes. People will just go online and just spew nonsense when they haven't done the proper research on an individual, all right? It's very important for you to do your due diligence and come through with all the information prior to you calling online. Say, oh, this was a great thing, and I only heard good things about that. Listen, if you went to Israel, you only hear good things about Netanyahu. It's not how it works. So you have to be important to be impartial and to find out all the information that is available to us. Now, for us here at R2F, listen, we have a stigma because of a few people, right? That we are very harsh and rude with guests. Not the case. Every guest we've had on our platform, we have been respectful towards, kind, considerate, and typically, like, this isn't a show or a platform where we go to discourage our guests. I'm not here to defame them or make them feel that they're stupid or less than. Typically want to be able to have them tell their story, and then we kind of give them some advice here and there. We take from them here and there, go forth, so on and so forth, right? Besides that Dreamer episode where we may have gone off the rails with it, right? So we try our best to be cordial to everyone, right? But the thing is, even despite that, right, because our effort is not to be mean to someone, right? Majority of the people that have critiques for us to say, hey, listen, you guys were mean to that guest, you were rude or whatever, right? And so I knew when Karim Kocsenda was sitting there spewing his Sufi nonsense, right, just going off about permissible this is equal to that, and Sufi mumbo jumbo this and that, and I could see the grimacing the faces of my brothers here, Joshua Mubarak, right? He would say something just off the walls, and I knew, why aren't they speaking anything? Like it was like when we had this girl Bella on the show. I was like, they're kind of being awfully quiet here with the nonsense going on this show. And I was too, right? Because we're just trying to be like, cordial to these people, right? This is a new guest. Hopefully we have them on for more episodes and we can go from there and eventually yada yada, right? So I'm thinking like, after the show's over, I told them, listen, there was one man who's going to be very happy with our show. Yeah, and and I bet you he'll reach out to us and say, listen, you guys did a tremendous job, mashallah. This is how the Tub M operate and provide. And I felt like, that's not who we are, right? And I felt that we did a disservice to you all, right? Because listen, I'm telling you, just speaking for me, I am very anti-Sufi. I believe that Sufism as a whole is a bid'ah. I haven't found one Sufi leader, sheikh, master, student, whatever, who practices tasawwuf who's like, oh yeah, I am on the up and up, and I'm doing the proper things that is right for me to do in Islam. It's always some mythical, if you know nonsense. And every Sufi either says my sheikh is Sheikh Khidr, son, nephew, father, or he's related somehow, and that's how it's always the same playbook, very lazy. None of the Sufis say that, oh, my sheikh is like Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman. Never that. It's always the same classic Sufi double nonsense. Yeah. And Sufis peddle this idea onto the wayward or people who are newly reverts to Islam, right? And we see this a lot from history, is that the Sufis are able to implant themselves with the wayward, with people who aren't as strong in their base. Heck, the entire country of Bosnia Herzegovina was a wayward Christianity sect who said, Sufism sounds kind of cool. We'll go over there and become Sufis. Yeah. And they're Muslim, but they're wayward for a reason. And the Sufis are often wayward, all right? Karim Kocsenda has talked about how his Sufi sheikh was speaking in a room of no one there. Listen, if I went to a room and saw Jafar or Mubarak speaking to no one, they're giving, yeah. It's like, hold on. Have y'all gone crazy? I wouldn't be inspired while Jafar would talk to anyone, even if no one's there. No, Jafar, listen, I might need to get checked out, brother. Maybe have an episode that isn't something that should be inspiring to you, right? Why is he speaking to no one? Why? Maybe he's praying. I don't know. But it wasn't a good look for us. And so inshallah today we will correct that. We will leave no doubt. I'm sure people will be mad at us after this episode. How dare you guys? You blindsided the brother. He came on to defend himself. Shame on you people. Listen, it's okay. All right. Going forward, we're not going to be as lenient with the nonsense. All right. So that's all I have to say, inshallah.
And just so it's very clear, I reached out to him directly and said, we're going to do a show covering some of the things you said on our show and some other things that you said. And you're welcome to join the show and come on to respond directly or whatever. And he said he declined to come on the show and said, you're free to do what you want. So just so you know, like, it wasn't like they were blindsiding him and coming behind his back. So let's get right into it. And we're just going to kind of go through it. And, we might have to jump around a little bit depending on the time, but we'll see, inshallah. Okay, so let's get over here. Okay. So right in the beginning was the first thing that was like, here we go. But I'll play it real quick, and you guys just listen.
Naqshbandis, for example, and they imparted to me, I think, a balanced view of tasawwuf. And I do believe that tasawwuf is a part of Islam. It's a part of the third pillar of ihsan, of seeking excellence.
Right there, I was like, okay. And this is the stuff that when you don't really pay attention to what's being said, right? It kind of gets planted in your mind. And if you don't know better, you're like, oh, yeah, that sounds right. So he talks about the third pillar of Islam. Well, first, we know there's not 3 pillars of Islam. There's 5. We know that. But what he's referring to is what Sufis like to go to all the time. And it's such a pet peeve of mine, is where, like, if you ask them, what's Sufism? Then they go to the Hadith of Jibreel and say Sufism is, when Jibreel asked Rasulullah, what's ihsan? And ihsan is worshiping Allah as if you see him, and if you don't, you know that Allah sees you. And this is what Sufism is. We're trying to achieve that. And it's like, oh, okay, why don't you just call yourself Muslims? Or like you take Sufism or Tasawwuf, and then you implant it on something that Rasul never intended. The Rasul after this, or the Sahabas or the scholars who explain this hadith, he's like, oh yeah, this meant Jibreel asked Prophet Muhammad this question, and when he said ihsan, he meant taking bayat to a sheikh, right? Holding hands and moving in unison, doing these special dhikrs, and all. No, he did not mean any of that. So stop implanting Sufism or Tasawwuf as like this is what Islam is. No, Islam is Islam. And there's various aspects of Islam, but they try to build it up as like, oh, it's this special science, separate category science in Islam that only Sufis know how to do. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you guys have anything you want to mention on that part.
And just to that point, Jaffer, it's super lazy because Islam is not super complicated for you, the Muslim, to understand and follow. So for some Sufi sheikh or whoever to come thousands of years later and say, hey, I have the secrets that were left out by Prophet Muhammad by the Sahaba, right? Like these people are titans, right? The titans, the pillars, right? Like the people who upheld Islam and pushed it forward through the whole world. These people, if there was something to be told or understood, I can assure you they would have revealed it to you. They would have told you, okay, yes, I heard this from Prophet Muhammad. This is the hadith from it. It wouldn't have been from some white guy 1,400 years later who reverted from Christianity or Hinduism.
Yeah, exactly.
Mark, are you muted?
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I told myself that I would try to be as fair as possible to this brother. Not that we're not always, or that we don't try to, but he was gracious enough to come on, and he was our guest. He's our brother. He's still our brother. He might not be too happy with what we may or may not say, but we will try to be fair with him. And so we look at his words, and he talked about ihsan. And this is the first time, actually, even I mean, I was part of the show, and I don't remember this. Like, I didn't even catch it the first time around.
Yeah.
And so when he says ihsan is part of that third pillar, and so I'm thinking the 5 pillars, and a lot of people are thinking the 5 pillars of Islam, which are, to believe in Allah, salah, fasting, zakat, hajj, if you can, right? But what he's referring to is the hadith. It's a well-known hadith. It's part of the 40 hadith of An-Nawawi, in which Angel Jibril comes, and he comes with extremely black hair, extremely white, clean clothes, and he sits down and speaks with Rasulullah about, asks him some questions. The hadith is well known, but if we look at just the part that refers to ihsan, right? And when Jibril alayhi salam says, inform me about ihsan, okay? And Rasulullah answers, and he says, ihsan, speaking of ihsan, it is that you should serve Allah as though you could see him. For though you cannot see him, yet he sees you. So if we just think about that for a second, number one, you made a great point, Dr. Griffin, about why don't, if that's where Sufism allegedly is based on, then why not call it the practice of ihsan?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's number one. But if you look at what the Sufis do, and we know that there are levels, there's some that do all types of weird things, and all the way till some you can't even really recognize their practices all the time. And
Right.
a lot of it has to do with beliefs. But if you just take that premise, these are people. Think about this now. For the audience and for our brothers here, think about this. This claim is what he's saying is that they are people who their sole focus is to operate in a way as if they can see Allah, knowing that they can't see him, but they know that he sees them. This is their whole focus. Now think of some of the things that they do. The breaches of Sharia.
Mm-hmm.
And the I mean, even if you take the people who do the singing and dancing and twirling, they wouldn't do that in front of just a regular sheikh somewhere. Like if they were just by themselves, or if they were just in a group of people, or if they were at the airport, or if they were, in a library, they wouldn't dance and jiggle around like that. So you're not operating in a way that your whole focus is you're behaving in a way that you feel like. So if you come before Allah, that's what you do. You start dancing and twirling and okay. Now when you meet Allah, think about this. You're saying this is how we act. So if you were to meet Allah, okay, and you come face to face with Allah, and you can say whatever because you're operating as if you can see him, but you know he's seeing you. Would you be saying hoo, or would you be saying actual words and phrases?
Right.
Would you be,
reciting Qur'an?
Yeah. You would be saying something. You would be saying complete dua, and you would be saying, words that Allah has taught you how to praise Him.
Mm-hmm.
That we know how to praise Allah from what Allah says in Qur'an and what Rasulullah says in the Sunnah. So you're not actually doing that. Show me. I would like for any person who says that I'm a card-carrying Sufi, and they believe that the pillar, the foundation of which Sufism is based on is that they are operating and behaving in a way that they are thinking to themselves, Allah is looking at me right now. I'm before Allah. Allah is my audience. And that's what you do.
Yep.
What sense would it make if you know and if you feel like that Allah is right there listening to you and you are interacting with him in a way that's intimate like that, and you just say gibberish, illallah, whatever it is that you do in these circles, you wouldn't do it.
Yep.
And I'll say this last thing and I'll leave it, and we can keep coming back to this point. How did Rasulullah act out? How did he act out ihsan? Because he knows what ihsan is.
Yeah.
And he knows how to practice that. So in what way is your practice or belief showing? And it should mirror the number one seen in.
Is he breaking up for you, Amr?
Yes, I thought.
Whatever.
Mubarak, you broke up for like the last 10 seconds. Mubarak?
As far as all the muhsinin, the people who are.
The Sufis got to him.
There?
I'm still here. Mubarak just like
froze on us.
Those one is number one.
Mubarak.
So go back and point to what number one guy did.
Oh man. All right, so Mubarak's having some connectivity issues. I'm pretty sure it's because his kid's tripped over a wire or something.
Nah, it's the Sufis got to him.
Every time. He was cooking.
He was cooking, and the Sufi said, "Nah, to solve with this, buddy. All right, abracadabra. All right,
yep.
Gotta get you out of here."
To come on, but he's absolutely right, and like I really, one of these days we got to do a show where and hopefully we can get some people to have courage to come on. Like some Sufis come explain to us tasawwuf, and like we're in 5th grade. Explain it to me like I'm a 5th grader. What is tasawwuf?
I'm about to say, not even just that. What benefit do you get from being a Sufi? Like, as opposed to just being the average Muslim, or just a good Muslim, I guess, for that matter, right? Who prays the 5 prayers on time, right? You read your Quran daily, all right, and you try your best to avoid major sins. Let's just say you do that, right? What benefit do you get from actually joining a tariqah, 1, taking bay'ah to a sheikh, 2, and number 3, doing whatever he tells you? Yeah. Like, is the sheikh supposed to give you? And listen, full disclosure, actually, I have you know, right? Jaffer and I actually are a part of New Keller's group. I was told. We listen
honorary. It's like you get the honorary degree. We're honorarium.
Listen, Jaffer and I honorarily signed up for the New Keller group online. And listen, I haven't done any of the stuff. All right, I read something. I was like, come on, this is nonsense. But
and just so people know, it must be the easiest Sufi tariqah to join, besides the one I seen where you just click a link online. Like, hey, join, click here to join. Yeah, like it was pretty much that easy. But Mubarak's gonna try to get back on. I'm gonna keep playing this next part too, because it plays into the next thing I want to discuss. And some of this stuff is not just for our audience to correct them. Some of this is because when people are in these groups, right, they actually don't, I don't know a better phrase to use, but they don't smell their own stuff, so to say, right? So like they will get on a platform and say, this is wrong, that's wrong, you can't do this. If you see a sheikh doing that or a group doing that, it's wrong, right? But then not even realize they're doing exactly that, what they just preached against. So I want to play this little next clip where he talks about spiritual abuse and abuse in these Sufi groups.
But as you guys rightly point out, there are gray areas, and there is, a reality to cults. There's a reality to spiritual abuse. These things are real, and we shy away from these conversations just because we defend a certain camp. We can't blindly defend everything or defend everyone, especially if people are getting hurt and harmed. And what happened was,
so he makes that, which is a good statement. It's exactly the same position we have. Like, you can't ignore this stuff when people are getting hurt or harmed, right? But then, if people know, like after this interview happened with him, there was an interview I did with In Sheikh's Clothing, right? People can go see that online. Go to YouTube and type in Sheikh's Clothing. You see an interview I did with Danish Qasim on there. And after that interview, when I was talking about my experiences with my cult, the PMOA cult, this is the video he passive aggressively puts on his channel, commenting on the interview I did.
Just some reflections on the fact that I was on an interview recently with some friends of mine who basically are involved in cult awareness. Okay. And one of these guys was then interviewed by another fellow who's also running a page only about cult awareness. Guys, it's like a person who's in a bad marriage, right? And then they get divorced, and then they hate men for the rest of their lives, or they hate women and they never want to get married again because they think everybody is bad. There's no good spouse. It's the same kind of thing that happens if all we do is like spiritual abuse. Yeah, it exists. And yeah, have some awareness out there for it. But overdoing it, see, anything, this is a metaphysical principle, anything that's overdone turns into its opposite. It's
always in the mind, Joffrey.
And so if all we do is say spiritual abuse, cult, spiritual abuse, now automatically what's happening in the mind of the ordinary Muslim is that they're suspecting all the ulama, all of the scholars of being abusers. And any alim who gives them advice in a slightly kind of strict or harsh manner or something where they perceive it as hurting them, they're like, I'm an abused victim, right? This is what's going to happen. And so separate from strictness. Okay, this is very important. And then don't just kind of be a one-trick pony, guys. This is what I'm saying. Even to myself, it's my advice to myself as well, and the kind of content I make, right? we have to kind of broaden the perspectives. Whenever someone's stuck on a certain thing, they overdo it, it gets overdone, it gets overkilled. And then you can't get out of that. Neither you nor your audience can get out of that. And then it becomes like an echo chamber. Everyone's like, yeah, 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 and they clap for each other because they're all talking about the same stuff. And then what happens after some time, because I've seen this, is that both the presenter and the audience burn out. You're like, okay, enough of this. But what happens at that stage is something very dangerous can happen, which is that they start to get disillusioned with the deen itself. They no longer want to study because Islam is not that complicated. We don't need to study too much. And they don't want to go sit at the feet of scholars who actually have knowledge because there might be an abuser. Anyway, Islam is not complicated. And it becomes something like a tool of shaitan against people. So this is my reflection on this, and my advice to my brothers involved.
So go ahead, Amr. You had something you wanted to mention before you forget.
Wait. So our brother Karim's advice is that if you have been abused, right, and want to call light to other people who may have been abused, right, you should stop, because if that's all you do is bad for you. And calling out people who do bad in the ummah is bad for the ummah, because you got abused. Move on.
You become, if you basically, the gist of his message was, if you speak out against abuse, you become a tool of shaitan.
Yep. That's basically what he said.
And listen, this is exact, like, and he doesn't realize what he's doing, but his reaction to my interview, which has nothing to do with his cult
at all,
or his Sufi group,
nothing
to have something to do with something I experienced
personally,
right?
Yes,
right, personally. And his gut reaction was like, I have to say something against what they're saying
to defend myself.
Right, which should be a red flag with him or anybody watching this content. Like, why are you offended, or why do you feel the need to speak out against this?
Unnecessarily,
right? And then he doesn't realize that he goes down this path mentally to try to convince himself of this, but also to convince his listeners that speaking out against wrong and joining right and forbidding evil, which is exactly what Allah tells us to do and what Rasul commands us to do, is actually you becoming a tool of shaitan. And it's the same language that clear cults use, because in one of my dismissals letters from TMOA, they called me and my brother tools of shaitan.
Yep. The barking evil dogs. And also, just real quick, listen, for Karim, because obviously you speak before you have all the information out there, right? Jafar has done 2 interviews on his life, right, in these past 7 years. One with Inchex Clothing and one with us. All right. His interview was like 5 years ago. So no, he doesn't just milk it. Like, no, Jafar has been speaking to Brother Danish for about 3, 4, 5 years. Except, like, it's been a while of that interview actually good. And then he finally put it out, and they had the time to do it. So no, it's not. Let's see. The problem is, don't speak on things you're not familiar with. And also, he did a speed run on cult defense. That's literally what, like, he's supposed to be this, like, non-biased, unapologetic. Oh, if it's wrong, I'll speak out against it. To, I will bash this man because what he's saying. See, the thing is, like, a hit dog will holler, right? And the things that Jafar spoke about, he sees similar things in his cult group or his Sufi or whatever, right? It's like, dang, let me get in front of this so I can say, oh no, see, he just abused and hurt, and that's why, you know, the devil got to you, and now echo chamber, this, that, and the third. No, it's not how it works. Oh, Jafar hates scholars. Jafar literally, Jafar speaks with scholars all the time. Like, what are we talking about? Bro?
And the idea of, like, if you're just speaking about a certain topic, Mubarak, you're back here. I think you're on mute. You were cooking, and then the Sufi internet just took over.
Hey, you know what? He was talking about how some Sufis, they're not fully cooked, and sometimes they can do little weird stuff or whatever. Maybe one of them Sufis flew over here and started pulled the plug on my internet. I don't know.
But yeah, it was interesting that, like, and this is kind of a trait that people develop. It's when they're in certain groups. Again, the jury's still out kind of on his group, and we're going to get to that in the future eventually. But you'll notice with cult leaders or spiritual abusers, they're master chameleons. So depending on who the audience is, they know how to adjust their positions and their rhetoric and what they say, depending on what they think people want to hear. So when he was on our show, he was like, yeah, we can't ignore when people, like, what did he literally say? He said, we can't ignore. He said, we can't blindly defend everything or defend everyone, especially if people are getting hurt and harmed. Then literally he goes on his own content, own platform and says, people are getting hurt and harmed. Oh, I got hurt and harmed.
Move on.
It's literally a 180.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, it's like this. I just, there's kind of a template that I like to tell people to use and to think about whenever you're talking about some of these leadership structures or groups, even all the way up into government levels, where, you know, you have certain people on either side, people that are saying, hey, there's abuse here. And there's people who are on the side of the group or cult or government or whatever. And they're like, they downplay it. And what I'm looking at is the people who are on the side of defending the group, let's just say the group, they are very similar to how the police or the law enforcement apparatus works in America. They do have a job to do, okay? And they also abuse the power within that job. They don't have the right to do it, but they do it, and they find ways to justify it. They operate very similar to a cult. And so for people who understand, you know, how the police apparatus works, you can just apply a lot of the things they do and you can see it in the cult groups. So there is a certain level of silence that people are expected to have when it comes to what goes on. You are supposed to defend your group, and then if there's an issue, you deal with it internally. If someone says, hey, there's abuse, there's harm here, the standard is you protect the group at all costs, and then, you know, you downplay whatever they're doing. And even if, then that's the next thing I want to get to, because it kind of deals with something that I caught what he was saying, is that what they will do is that even if they say, hey, well, the police have shot someone, or, you know, they were caught, you know, stealing or whatever, they will say, oh, well, you know, you're just fear mongering. They have a very dangerous job and they have to do it. And, you know,
it's required.
you know, they'll make all these excuses and then push it back onto the one who's abused. Do you want to just let the criminals run amok? You know, wait till you call 911 and it takes 2 hours for them to get here, instead of saying, you know. And so you have to look at how it's this, all of these type of abusive, cult-like, oppressive structures, these groups, they operate in a very similar way. And so if you see how the police operate, that's one of the tactics that they use. They talk about, they try to either downplay the person who is abuser or the point that's being called out. And if they can't completely just say it didn't happen, if they can't say it didn't happen, then they say, well, if you continue to do what you're doing, then look at the harm you're going to cause. Oh, you don't want to, you're afraid of this and that and other. So that's just something that I saw from what he was saying. You got to be careful not to fall for that trap of, because you spoke out or because you said something or because you think this is wrong, you know, you're going to cause some sort of further, you know, harm to someone. And let's deal with the actual harm that did take place, and, you know, make sure whoever's responsible, you know, gets, you know, what should come to them.
And what does that look like in our world, right? And because we see it all the time, and we've seen it through our journey. It looks like, well, if you guys keep doing this, then right-wing racist nationalists are going to attack them, so you shouldn't talk about it. Or don't you have something better to do? You should be giving dawah to all the non-Muslims and not talk about this. Or if you keep talking about this, people aren't going to want to become Muslim because they're going to think Muslims are all cool. This is what that looks like, and he's doing exactly what you said. You know, basically, like it's like it's the playbook, right? We need to. That's something we should publish at one point. Shaitan's cult playbook, right? And just say this is what they're going to do in these situations, because it's the same thing every single time. He said downplay it all the way to get to the point where you're just basically putting the blame right back on the person as the victim, you know. Very simple. And then it didn't end there, because then we did our video, because it started getting closer to home to him, of like he called us his friends, right? My friends, but maybe he didn't realize what we actually do as our job. We know our one trick pony, right? Well, you didn't see what our pony was.
Shame on
right?
us.
You didn't pay attention, because then it started getting closer to home to him, because we actually had an interview. We were supposed to have another interview or do a show with him, a collaborative thing. Never got to it. But in the meantime, we had an ex-member from his Sufi tariqah who claims that their tariqah is a cult come on our show and do an interview. Then there was a bunch of comments and stuff that he was leaving during the interview and after the interview that we'll get to. But after we did that interview, he leaves this video.
Reflections on an interview today about cult awareness and spiritual abuse that took place with a platform who hosted an ex-murid of a sheikh.
So I got to stop right here just so people don't miss it. Remember, I just prefaced that this is an interview with someone that belonged to the same group he belongs to. And what does he say? Oh, an interview with someone who was a member of a sheikh. No. It was an interview with somebody who's a member, a follower of your sheikh, you should say my sheikh. But he doesn't want to anyway, I violated my rule. Sorry. That was one strike on me. I'll let it play.
No pause.
Basically, this interview went along the lines of a person being hurt by certain things that happened to them from a subjective standpoint, things that were painful. They wanted to get married to somebody and they were advised against it. The marriage wasn't broken up, and they voluntarily took advice. Is this a good match for me? And it was said no, and they didn't like the answer. Guys, we can't throw out tariqas like this. This is not how it's done. Real abuse is something that is either contrary to the Sharia, not that I took advice from a sheikh and I didn't like the advice he gave me, but stuff like the sheikh having illicit relationships with women, the sheikh stealing money from followers, this kind of stuff. Or let's say the sheikh breaks the law of the land and you care about that the sheikh is running red lights or whatever, and then you report into the police. That's not really abuse. But if you want to say that he broke a law, secular law or a religious law, if you can prove something like that. However, victimhood, I want to talk about victimhood right now, guys. Victimhood has become a huge thing. Everybody's a victim nowadays of their parents, their spouse, their siblings, their children, their neighbors. Societies are victims. White people feel victimized by immigrants, by black people. Black people feel victimized.
But he gets into victimhood, and pretty much that was a summary of his reaction to that interview with that ex-member of his group, follower of his current sheikh. And to sum it up, it was pretty much downplaying the sister's victimhood, right? She wasn't a victim. And then basically boiling down her whole hour and a half interview down to, oh, she just wanted to get married to somebody and she couldn't. That was the only thing we talked about was her wanting to get married to someone and them saying no. And that's the only thing that happened, right? Downplaying that. And then falsely saying that there is no abuse unless Sharia is broken, which is not true, because there's a lot of things that can happen that fall in lines with the Sharia that is abuse or taking advantage of people or manipulation, whatever words you want to use, that's not appropriate. I could give tons of examples of that, but that's what they do. They boil it. They try to make it really simple, and then they'll move the goalposts. Because remember, these Sufi sheikhs are supposed to be the creme de la creme, the best Muslims on the world. Because the only reason they're following these sheikhs is because they believe this sheikh is going to get to a point, we'll talk about it coming up, where they can become one with Allah. These are the best human beings on earth. So if these human beings are doing these things that seem manipulative, that they're harsh, they're hurting people, they're neglecting people and all this, obviously they're not the best people in the world, because he talked about it in our show that they should reflect Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which is mercy, kindness, patience, and all these different things. So if they're being harsh, when was Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam ever harsh?
Yeah, and there's another thing that they do is they will use a term or a topic that's so broad that it can either catch everything that they want to catch, or they can use it to dismiss, anything that's there. For instance, when you say as long as there's no breach of Sharia, as long as the Sharia is not broken. I mean,
finding out you have.
There are so many things within Sharia that you can legally do that maybe if you do them, it could be abusive depending on how it takes place.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if I just were to, every time someone asks about, are you a good person for marriage or something like that, I just don't say anything. But then if it asks about anybody else, I got stuff to say or whatever.
Yeah.
Just by my position or how I am, I haven't broken Sharia or anything, but I could be abusing you or wielding my power in a way to manipulate and to cause you some harm. That is a way. I'm not saying that that's the way they did it, but there's plenty of things that are within Sharia. For instance, a man could, decide, what, I'm supposed to maintain and provide for my wife, but I'm only going to buy, ramen noodles.
Yeah.
I mean, that's within Sharia, but he could still be an abuser by doing something that he knows is going to, cause some issue. Now, I mean, that's just some examples, but there are plenty of things that a person can do within Sharia, and that's why, your actions are by your intentions. If you intend to do some harm by someone, but you're pretending that it's something good. For instance, then this is the last one I'll use, but this is a perfect example. Let's say I'm going to lead you guys in Salah, okay? It's 5:25. Dr. Griffin's got to be at an appointment at 5:35. I know this. I could recite Surah Al-Baqarah, right?
Yeah.
This is within Sharia. I mean, that's great. But I know that I can cause him some harm or abuse him by just extending the Salah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's things like that. There are lots of different ways that a person can, abuse someone without doing something that says, hey, that's haram in Islam, or this is a breach of Sharia. A person, especially just the general population and people who are just laymen, they would not necessarily be able to pinpoint how this is. It's not a breach of Sharia, but it's abusive. Well, they can feel the abuse, but you see what I'm saying? They can just say, "Well, he didn't break Sharia." I mean, he just did a 1 hour and 53-minute rak'ah, but it's okay. He didn't break Sharia.
I got a perfect example, right? Allah protect us, but say one of us, say there's three brothers, right? One of these brothers, say his name is James, divorces his wife, right? Then he goes back to his other brothers, Mubarak and Amr, is like, man, I really regret that. I wish I could, it was my third time. I wish I could take her back. Mubarak's like, you know what? I'm going to do my brother a solid. I'm going to marry his ex-wife and then divorce her. All on his own. Right? We didn't discuss it. We didn't plan it or whatever, but what is it? It's a halal marriage. No, if you go to the Qadi and be like, this is what happened, they're going to do an investigation and they're like, hey, did you guys talk about this? No, I had no idea. They got married. It didn't work out, whatever. But that was Mubarak's intention the whole time, is just, I'm going to marry this woman just so my brother can remarry her. Is that within Sharia? Yes. Is it abuse? Is it neglect? Is it improper? Yes. Or another example. We have a club. We have a club named R2F. Is it against Sharia for us to charge fees to belong to R2F? Right? We can say, hey, you want to be a part of this club? You want to get our content, whatever, you got to pay $50 a month, right? Say, people really we realize like people are really into it and they start looking at us as like sheikhs, right? Sheikhs of Tasawwuf, and that we have Ihsan and that we're Muslims and like we got to follow these guys no matter what. We realize that. We're like, you know what? We should raise that fee to maybe like $1,000 a month. Maybe we should do that. And then we add on some other rules like, okay, is it against Sharia to make it a rule to belong to a club that you have to buy my old socks that I auction off. Why start auctioning off my dirty socks? Because people, you know, they might be holy, literally. Yeah, like they got the point that we can go on and on where, and that's
well, actually, technically, that would be a breach of Sharia because it's an illegal transaction.
Yeah.
So
what's that, auction? I can't auction my socks.
Well, if you say you pay money to be part of the club, and so that's one transaction, and then to say, and you have to buy these, like if it's part of the so if it's just the fee is separate.
If you want tier 1 status, you gotta buy the socks.
Yeah. Now that yeah. I don't think you can put two transactions.
Yeah,
in
you're
the
right.
same,
You're right.
together.
You're exactly right. Yeah.
But just for a quick listen, Brother Kareem, listen, that was a very lazy ad hominem on the sister for her whole hour and a half interview. Like, as far as fallacies go, that was like using the ad hominem was just so lazy because she didn't speak just about that. Like, her whole interview wasn't about I didn't get married. She talked about how like she came from a troubled childhood and she was abused and she had to trying to find Islam, and the cult itself provided her a sense of like security and togetherness, and then like there was a whole story that you tried to discredit because it was like it's my sheikh, but I mean, hey, listen, how dare she speak? Like, come on, like it was especially because you're trying to be this like just non-biased observer, bro. Come on, like
you gotta recognize, and this is what really our message to our audience is you have to recognize what team people are on, and this goes like in all arenas. You got to recognize what team they're on, and no matter what, like even if we look at Democrat, we go into politics and look at Democrats and Republicans. There are Democrats and Republicans that purposely play that middle role just to pull people over to the extreme side of what they really believe in, right? They play in the middle, like, oh yeah, I'm going to engage with this person or that person, but really I'm just trying to push a certain agenda. And if you recognize, like, okay, what side is this person on, it allows you to actually really see what message they're giving when they're saying these type of things. We can see it because we're clearly on a certain side of the spiritual abuse thing, right? We're going to attack it, speak out against it. Even if it's questionable, we're going to bring it up and bring it to the light. But there's another side that's like, no, don't talk about it. Don't bring it up. I want to protect this. So like Mubarak mentioned, I want to protect the blue line, right? And when you realize they're on that side, you see their content in a different light. This next one that we have is where he starts talking about like the whole concept of the 7 sultans, and where in that belief it says that it's okay to call human beings Allah. And this is kind of getting into really like the crux of some of the stuff that was just like, we're really biting our tongues like, oh my goodness, what? Okay, let's move on, right? But let's play this.
It says that you can call these 7 sparks Rijalullah, the men of Allah, or you can call them Allah himself.
yes.
Right.
Like, I had that emoji, you know, where the head goes.
Yeah.
Really?
I think we all did with that.
Yeah.
It's like, nah.
So, you know, that's deifying a human being, right? That's kufr.
Yeah.
So I said to both to you guys privately and then also to people who reached out, I said, okay, your sheikh claimed that he was the 6th sultan. Did he believe in this corrupt idea that is in Risale Ruhi Shaykh? Nobody was able to kind of say yes or no, but we can say yes, he said he's the 6th sultan. What he meant by that, Allah knows. Right. I said to people, did he claim divinity? Did he walk around saying, I'm God? They said, no, he didn't. I said, were people making sujood to him? No, they weren't. They don't worship him. We have to be fair to TMO. They don't worship their sheikh. They say weird things like, may my...
So just a few corrections
My
there.
eyes, bro.
Well, like that's the thing. Like, so like we did some of the things he was saying wasn't true. Maybe he didn't pay attention to our private messages, but like, yes, the sheikh does believe in this. Yes, the sheikh teaches it in his own book. So as far as the TMO cult, like trying to use that as some kind of out, he was just totally wrong on that. But this is him saying, like, he clearly says this idea of saying someone is Allah or Allah is somebody is kufr, right?
Mhm.
Says it clearly. But then on his own platform, he releases videos like this.
Wahid al-Wujud, Part 1, the oneness of being. The absolute most important topic to understand in Sufism is the oneness of existence. Wahdat al-Wujud. Imam al-Ghazali tells us that the oneness of existence means that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has true existence in terms of his essence, his names and attributes, and his actions. And he says that we are a part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's actions, or you may say the effects of his actions. So only Allah tabarak wa ta'ala has true existence. Now, how do we understand this? A metaphor some people use is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he creates, it's not like a poet writing a poem, because the poet, when he writes a poem, he puts the poem like next to him, right? He puts it down. But the analogy is more like a dancer and their dance, or a sportsman and their sport. Let's say you see a footballer running and scoring a goal. These are the actions of the footballer, right? So if you say that that is a kick, kicking the ball, or that's scoring a goal, you're absolutely correct. And if you say that that is Ronaldo, the footballer, that's also a correct statement. Both are correct. So the Sufis, when they say that everything is a manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's like the goal. If you call that goal or the kicking the ball, the player, you say that's Ronaldo, or you say that's scoring a goal or that's kicking the ball, both statements are correct. And they're not the exact same thing. So if you say creation reflects Allah or creation is Allah, that statement has a correct meaning and has an incorrect meaning. If you reduce Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to creation, that is kufr, that's an incorrect meaning. It's like reducing the person playing football to the football game itself and saying that's what he is, right? He's not, he's much more than that. And so if you say creation is Allah, it's correct from one perspective and incorrect from another. And so you have to qualify and explain yourself. But it's not entirely incorrect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he creates, he doesn't carve out a space next to him and put creation next to him. We mentioned in earlier videos that is illogical to believe that Allah is in a little space and creation is in another space. And then where did he place it and so on, right? So creation...
I don't know if we have to keep listening.
Okay, wait. No. Y'all remember about 7 years ago where I said people be having all these Islam books behind them and haven't read anything about them. All right. Mm-hmm. I was like 19. The thing is, listen, that is when you have to give a freaking like paper in college and you just start just saying nonsense to fill out the freaking word count. That's literally what that was. She said, listen, I need 5,000 words.
I need 5,000 more words.
Yeah, but how am I just speak at? Listen, that was utter nonsense. Like, you literally just said that you're Allah. That's basically like cut and dry. If you remove all the fluff, the creator, Allah, created me, so I'm also Allah. That's basically what you just said.
And I like one because we were one of the things that we were talking to Karim about when we were going to try to collab. He was really hype on trying to do something about aqīdah. Wanted to teach us and our audience about aqīdah. And Mubarak really opened up my eyes when he responded to that, and it was like no, like why do we need to do it? Like aqīdah is simple, and like you see online where people have all these videos about this creed and that creed and comparing and debating and the nuances and different. And it's like really when Mubarak is like, yeah, it really is simple because when you delve down these holes, you end up getting wacky. And I'm sorry, this is straight goofiness. Because on our show, he said to say a human being is Allah is kufr, i.e., to say that a creation is Allah is kufr. Then he has a whole video explaining how saying creation is Allah is right in one aspect, but wrong in another. But and he compares it to Ronaldo playing soccer.
I mean,
Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam kulluhu kufuwan ahad. There's nothing like Allah. Allah is one. Why are you using created analogies to say this is how Allah is. Allah created us like Ronaldo created that soccer goal. Are you serious?
Come on, lace like a Mephiche. Like
now, let me try to break this down in as simple as ways as possible, because what he said is very dangerous for him first and foremost, because he's saying it. Therefore, we have to believe that he actually believes this, and to believe what he's saying is kufr. Now, maybe anyone else who listens and sees his video doesn't believe it. I hope that's the case. But let's back up a little bit and say I would say the number one way as a Muslim to determine whether you should continue taking any person seriously when they tell you this is a foundational core belief and understanding in Islam. Now, he didn't say Islam. He said this is the most important point to understand in Sufism.
Yes.
Which there's something buzzing in the background. I hope that's not me. Anyway, so what was I saying? Okay, so he said this is the most important point in Sufism, and I think what he's trying to say is Sufism is part of Islam. I'm struggling to see how it is, but anyway, let's just go with that. The thing that you have to look at before you continue to take anyone speaking seriously when they talk about how something is foundational to your belief as a Muslim, to your practice of Islam, is that first they should start with something that Allah said, because we actually have texts from Allah himself. It's called the Qur'an and Hadith Qudsi, if you want to throw that in there too. But we have that. If they never mention what Allah says and then base what they're understanding, what they're trying to get you to understand and believe off of that, be very, very afraid. If they then cannot give you anything that Rasulullah said to base this belief off of, then run. And they're not even giving you anything from the actual physical students of Rasulullah, which are his companions, this is the Sahaba, or the students of those people, which are the Tabi'in and Tabi'in, okay? None of those people. Okay, so that's number one. That's a huge red flag. You can really stop there and be like, anything that he's saying, you just can't, it can't be foundational. It cannot be the foundation of your belief in anything to do with Islam. If nothing, it cannot be attributed to anything that we base Islam on, which is the Qur'an and the Sunnah, and the way that Rasulullah understood it and taught it to us. So that's number one. But even if we look further at his analogy about Ronaldo and how, or the footballer, okay, and he says it's not like the poem. What he mentioned, they're both the same thing. The poet writing a poem or a footballer kicking a soccer ball, it is the exact same thing.
Yeah,
because the poet is the poet. The pen in which he's writing with, the paper in which he's drawing on, is something different. It's not part of him. He can walk away and leave that. The paper, the pen can be destroyed and he would be fine. He hasn't lost anything. He also can just get another one. He can borrow the paper and pen of another person. Similarly, if you look at the footballer, the analogy that he made, so the ball, the grass, the dirt that the grass is growing on, the actual the goal that's there. So no, it doesn't make any sense. The footballer, or if you want to say Ronaldo or whatever, or you can say playing soccer, there is a human being doing that in conjunction with multiple things. So Allah, for instance, laysa kamithlihi shay, qul huwa Allahu ahad. He is one. There's nothing like him, and he's the only one. But he can throw people in Jahannam. That doesn't mean he's also Jahannam. He can, destroy people with floods or do all the things, direct the angels to do things. He is the director. Just like I can make this pen do something. It's not exactly that way, but the pen is not me. Now I can manipulate this pen or have this pen do whatever within my capacity. That doesn't make it me. Nothing he even said makes any sense. It doesn't make any sense in any way. He gave examples and they were both exactly the same, nor are they in any way representative of Allah's relationship with the creation.
Yep.
So, you just got to be careful. Ignore anybody who cannot base what they're telling you to believe on the Qur'an, what Allah said, or what His Messenger said. The end.
And I'll add another one to that list you gave, is that if someone's saying something's a foundational principle in Islam, I'm not aware of any foundational principle in Islam and any science of Islam that I heard of that wasn't very clear and easy to understand. Right? Like very simple, very straightforward. Those are how foundational principles are. And then you can delve deep into, the other nuances and meanings in there, but it should be simple. And this whole thing is that he's basically comparing Allah to his creation. And one thing we have to understand, and we should all do this, we all should study the attributes of Allah, the 99 names of Allah, because one of the attributes of Allah is al-Badi'. And pretty much what that means is that Allah creates from nothing. Right? He doesn't need a ball or a pen like Mubarak was saying, or a paper or grass or a goal or an actual game to exist. He doesn't need any of that he says be, and it is, and then it exists. It's not attached to him, it's not a part of him, it's not an extension of him, because he is Allah. He's one, and he can create. And this is the problem. And I would just also say this: if anybody starts talking about supporting, promoting wahdahul wujud, also run away. The concept is clear shirk and clear kufr. You can find some people that can find some crafty ways to try to weasel their way and do gymnastics and try to explain a way that it may not be. But listen, you shouldn't have to deal with that when you're dealing with shirk and kufr. If you have to do all of that, like what he just did, the mental gymnastics to try to explain something, then like Mubarak said, you should be running away. So this was a big red flag, and also again a clear contradiction to what he said on our show. And I don't even think he realizes it, because it's in those nuances that these people like him in these Sufi groups get lost, because for him it was easy to understand the shirk and kufr when saying this man, it's okay to call this man Allah. It was clear to him. But it's not clear to him when someone says all of existence is Allah. He couldn't see that. It's the same thing, but actually even worse, right? Because now you're saying everything is Allah. Right? And then the idea, I don't want to go too far in this.
Now listen, this is something that we have to go deep into, because what he just described is called pantheism, right? And that's an ancient Greek belief where they believe that everything is God. They believe that everything is Allah, and Allah exists, or I guess God exists in everything. So a piece of grass, that's God. This glass could also be God. The hand, and the problem is for Sufism is that how it started was the founder of Sufism said, if Allah is the all-knowing, the all-wise, all this stuff that Allah is, right? Allah doesn't make mistakes. So clearly Allah meant to give Hinduism to the Hindus, Buddhism to the Buddhists, Christianity. So and I believe that because I believe in Allah and Allah makes no mistakes, I should be able to take religions from everywhere in the world and incorporate it into Islam, because Allah gave him that religion. And that is exactly what we're seeing right now with the Sufism of today. That's how it started. You can debate it if you want to. Go back and look it up.
Even in the past, not even just today, because like you said, that wahdahul wujud, that's a concept that's centuries old.
Yeah. So
right,
you're just describing a Roman belief, ancient times, and
well, you hit on the key point, because and this is where all the deviation comes from, and maybe we do need to delve deep on. We should. We're going to deep dive on this a little bit, because this is the problem, right? We have the hadith, and I just looked up the wording just to make sure I don't have it wrong, but it's a Sahih hadith where Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came out. The hadith says, Abu Hurairah says, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came out to us while we were disputing about al-qadar. His face became red with anger, as if a pomegranate seed had burst on his cheeks. Then Prophet Muhammad said, is this what you were commanded with? Is this why I was sent to you? Those before you were destroyed when they disputed over this matter. I strongly warn you, do not dispute about it. So I mentioned this just to give the basis of where I'm going to go with this next, because he's making the mistake that other Muslims made when they deviated, the classical deviated sects of Islam, right? So if we think about who? The Qadaris, right? The Qadarites, where there's two different types of Qadaris, where not the Qadri Sufis, right? We're talking about the sect of the Qadaris, who basically they denied the Qadr of Allah.
Mm-hmm.
There's one who denied the Qadr of Allah. Then there's another one who went the other way and just affirmed everything as the Qadr of Allah. Let me explain what that means. And before I explain what it means, I want to tie in what Amr just said, because where these ideas came up from is when Muslims started interacting with other civilizations, philosophy, Greek philosophy, and they were trying to explain Islam on their terms.
Yep.
And get into philosophy and get into word and trying to logically explain, do all these different things, where we already had the hadith where Rasul saying like, don't delve too deep into this. I'm warning you, like, because it's going to get beyond your pay grade, beyond your scope of understanding.
Yep.
And it's going to lead, like you have other scholars saying, when you delve too deep into stuff, it pretty much leads to heresy. It leads to kufr. It leads to shirk. So what did the Qadaris do, right? Pretty much they're in these debates, philosophical debates about the Qadr and all this, right? And they're talking about Allah's actions, right? Remember, he's talking about Allah's actions. You know, Allah and his actions were part of his actions, right? So when you go down that route, you can logically come to a logical conclusion like, well, if Allah created us and Allah created our actions, well, that means he's actually responsible for our actions. So how is it just if Allah created me and he created me to sin and I sin, how is that my fault? Right? So they're at a dilemma because they're trying to logically and philosophically explain this to people they're battling with. So there's only two roads you can go from here. You either can go say, okay, well, Allah didn't create my actions and Allah doesn't know what I'm going to do, right? And these are the people that denied Qadr, right? They literally said Allah doesn't know what we're going to do until we do it, right? And then you have the other people that went the other way and say, no, Allah does know everything we do. He created our actions, and we're not going to be held responsible for anything we do. Because when you go down these roads, and this is exactly what he's saying, it leads to shirk, it leads to kufr, because pretty much he's saying we're Allah's actions. What's the logical thing? Well, if I'm Allah's actions, my actions are also Allah's actions.
And this is how they get to where they can say that they're sheikh. Well, if it looks like a clear breach of Sharia, I mean, this is where it leads to. Oh well, he's he's just carrying out the action of Allah, and this is how they get to Musa Kidder.
Exactly. Exactly. And you see, and like this is why it's important for us as Muslims to we learn our base, we learn our roots in Islam, right? We learn our fundamental, our aqīdah, the basic, we learn all these different things. But another thing I think is very important, and maybe we'll cover it on our show, or just on our channel at some point, just going through the classical deviant sects and talking about like how they deviated and why they deviated. And I swear you will see like, oh, that's what so-and-so Sufi tariqah believes. Oh, that's what so-and-so Sufi master teaches. And you'll see the connections. Even today with like the modern day Muslims with the liberalism and all that, you'll see all the same things happening, right?
Absolutely.
Where they're just basically deviating from the Qur'an and Sunnah, trying to explain or appease Islam in a context that is not Islamic. Did Rasul ever explain Allah's attributes in this manner? No. So why are you, we have the ayah, why are you speaking about things you do not know of? Inshallah, Allah protect us all that we only explain Allah or define Allah in the words in the manner that Allah defined himself and that Rasul defined. Why go outside of that? Because that's Sufism. That's the shortcut.
And it really is. And I'll just say, like, I know some people that may listen and may say, because we mentioned that aqīdah was simple, Some people, they don't like this. They think it's complicated, and because you have some certain people who spend a lot of time on it, and that's all they talk about. They cover the books of aqīdah, they say, for decades. And for a lot of people, I see some students of knowledge, they even say it's their favorite subject, aqīdah. I'll just say this really quickly. To understand what you should believe about Allah is very, very simple, clear. It is straightforward. It is crystal clear. A child can understand it. And so that part is very, very simple. What can be complicated is when you have someone like this guy who's talking about wahdatul wujud, and you have these deviant sects and ideas, the Qadariyah, who come in and they have these things. Now, to deconstruct that, now that might be complicated for someone to deconstruct it. And when people say aqīdah is my favorite subject, their favorite thing to do is to attack and deconstruct these deviant beliefs. But in reality, the belief of Islam, what you should believe about Allah, is extremely simple. It's extremely easy to understand. It is not complicated at all. It takes less than 5 minutes to explain it to someone, what you need to believe about Allah, and what you need to believe and die on. What happens is then when you add in, for instance, when you have a person, like you have certain things like in some countries you have the lucky rabbit's foot or whatever. Now, if you see someone wearing a lucky rabbit's foot around their neck as an amulet, now you could simply just say, don't wear that. But if a person doesn't understand it, they might get involved in it. There might be things similar to it. So in that instance, there are some things that you can dive deep into, and you can spend centuries talking about all the different things that deviant people do. But still, that can be explained by simply telling people, we believe what Allah and His Messenger have told us, and whatever didn't come from them, we don't do it. So it wouldn't even matter. It wouldn't even matter. Even if someone said, man, I broke a mirror, I'm going to have bad luck for 7 years. A person that has understood that one concept, we go, what Allah says. Did Allah say anything about mirrors breaking in bad luck? Did Rasul say anything about it? You can just throw it out the window. You can automatically toss it out. So the thing is, it's very, very, very straightforward, easy to understand what you need to believe. What's complicated is the deviants who try to add things to Islam and to deconstruct those, why it's wrong and all those things. They're just saying you can't do it. Where does the law say it? Where does the Rasul say it? And then go from there. But that's where the complication comes into, and that's where you have the biggest battles. The people who just love that innovation, they love that deviant stuff or whatever, and for some reason people are very, very drawn to it. And you have the people that just love to deconstruct it. They love to battle. And I'm not saying that they're not needed. There are scholars of aqīdah and these deviant groups and how to deconstruct them and how to tear them apart. That's needed. But to understand what you need to believe is very, very easy.
No, absolutely. And it doesn't even have to take like a rocket scientist to go all this far back and decipher every meaning. The first deviant group we have was the Khawarijites and the Rafidah. Guess who started them? A Jew. So like Abdullah ibn Saba was a Jew who started the whole thing. So there you go. Khalas. Do you want to follow a Jew? Like you want to go to Qiyamah and say, listen, Allah, listen. Obviously, there was this Sahabi, right? If I saw something, I could follow them. But this Jew had ideas that I believed in about Ali being God. So obviously, I'm a follower of the Jew. Come on now. Is that going to be your legacy? You follow
and that's the thing. When you look into this, and we need to. There's a lot of things we need to do. We keep every show we need to do this, we need to do that. But there needs to be a history deep dive connecting the history of like Christianity and Judaism, because when you look at, because they have their own Sufi groups, right? When like the mainstream Jews and Christians these dudes are off it, right?
Wilding, and
you look at their beliefs, you wouldn't be able to tell them the difference between Muslim Sufi, their mystical groups. They have the same. They come from the same source. They have the same deviations. They have the same beliefs. You can find Jewish groups and Christian groups that talk about, yeah, we're all one with God and this, that. They believe the same stuff. And it's like, wait a minute. Okay, there's a problem. And just to like kind of round it out with what Mubarak said, I firmly believe, and I've been waiting for anybody to kind of disprove me. Islam is meant, I'll start with this. Islam is meant for mankind, right? We know that is true. The majority of mankind is what? Ignorant, simple-minded laymen. So if your Islam is above the knowledge that a layman can understand, something is wrong. Because if you can't go to someone who's just a simple, like I'm not like a simple-minded regular person who's not gonna like read 16 volumes of book to understand like this Wahdahu Wujud or whatever, and this is the most important concept in your creed, something is wrong.
Absolutely.
Because the most important concept in our creed, we could just go say, here's 5 pillars of Islam, here's 6 pillars of Iman, and here's how to pray. Let's go. La ilaha illallah. Like you can get going, right? And you're like, but you got to sit there in your creed and, well, okay, before you pray, before you do all this, I got to explain to you how you are actually God. Come on, man.
Listen, I honestly, I think, you know, I'm not big into psychology and the study of it. I believe it is mainly a scam. But
Shame on you.
hey, let's. Well, listen, I know there's some Muslim psychologists, and you know, I know some of the Muslim universities have Islamic psychology degrees, but I would say that mostly is a scam. But I would say that even if we don't, I would say that Sufism should be classified as a psychological disorder. Because seriously, I have yet to find a mentally stable person that I didn't think had some sort of personality disorder. He was off a little bit, he or she, a little bit or a lot, that wasn't a Sufi. You will never find any named the most goofy Sufi that you know. And you will find someone that is, whether they before they're Muslim or after they became Muslim, they have that kind of almost that, like they had a kind of hippie vibe to them. They got a type of personality that is or people that are susceptible to delusions of grandeur. They're overly imaginative. Not overly imaginative, not the word, but what's the word for people who I mean, even some people that almost got schizophrenia, these are the people that are attracted to it because it like, oh yeah, if you like the normal person, if you tell them, hey, you know, you're actually, you know, God, really, if you break it all the way down, for the normal person, be like, listen, I'm not. I know that I'm not.
Yeah.
But for the person that seems attractive to, that's a person out that person is that they're mentally, there's something off there. Because if you are attracted to the thought that you are a divine being, think about that. A person that can be convinced that they have some sort of divinity is a nut job, a big one or a small one. They either got a little, either they got a sprinkle or they got a whole gallon, but they got something.
Yep, I would agree with you.
Absolute facts.
I would agree
Listen,
with you.
every single professor I ever had in a psychology course was definitely on the spectrum a little bit. All right, for sure. All right, one of them spent a whole class talking about how fear could be, fear could be a sixth sense you have. It was like it was 3 hours just that nonstop talking about. Listen, like I'm like, bro.
Yeah,
he was like the taste you have, the touch you have, all that is triggered by fear. Because you're fear. I was like, all right. All right.
That's what it is. Like psychology is like, it's good until like just kind of like I always think, until they get to that next level where they try to go too deep. Just understanding how human mind works and, you know, basic human tendencies and how the mind can be manipulated. That stuff's good because you can learn from that and learn to protect yourself. But when they start going down those rabbit holes and stuff, that's where it gets a little goofy. Sufi. People are attracted to that. But he also continues on in this next clip. So I'll share that. And we might be doing one of our old type episodes where we go, I don't know how much time y'all got, but we'll see. See how we go. Inshallah. Let me share that.
Or whatever. In Islam, we have this principle of like ta'wil, of giving things metaphorical interpretations to save somebody's faith and iman. And if there's like 99 ways that something is kufr, but you can kind of interpret it in one way that isn't, you do it just to save people's belief systems.
Right.
From like being called.
So that's the clip. And pretty much he's saying,
that's news to me.
If someone commits kufr, we give 99 metaphorical interpretations for it, so we don't actually have to say, so we could save their belief system.
Whoa. Listen.
And when I first heard it, the thing that really popped in my head, and I'll just say this and I'll let you guys go, is like, why are we saving people's belief systems? We're supposed to be saving Islam. Like, that's what we should be saving, the belief system of Islam, not their personal belief system. And I'm so daggone tired of people misusing that. Give them 99 excuses, 70 excuses.
It's not even a hadith, by the way.
That doesn't apply in every situation.
I'm about to say, listen, if I went out on Twitter and saw Kareem at the wall in Israel doing this, listen, I'm not about to excuse you, bro. I'm sorry, all right? I'm like, all right, he's clearly a Yehudi agent.
Yeah. I mean, see, and this is why, like I said, he just quoted something, but instead of, and this is why I almost every week, I almost beg people, all you have to do is study the Qur'an at the very minimum. Just read it. Even if you just read it and read the translation, if you don't know Arabic, you will be able to defeat and to debunk all this stuff. And even if you read hadith, also, for instance, he says, if they have 99 things that could point to their belief system being kufr, and you can find one and he said to save their belief system. Number one, inna ad-deen 'inda Allahi al-Islam. The religion with Allah is Islam. Allah says that's the religion, and it's nothing's going to be accepted other than Islam. So Islam is the belief system. Islam is the belief system. You should never be trying to find excuses for a belief system to try to fit it into Islam. What does Allah say about Islam? What does Allah say about the Quran? Lam yaj'al lahu iwaja. Right? There is no crookedness in it. What does that mean? So if there's no crookedness in it, but your belief system or your actions or your beliefs are crooked, when you enter into Islam, it will straighten you out. So your crookedness will be straightened out by the fact that Islam, the Quran, and the belief system of Islam is perfect. It's straight. It will get rid of those 99 kufr belief systems and make it just the one that is correct. And we say it every day. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. The straight path. It's one way.
Yep.
So you don't know. It is against Islam to try to find alternative ways to believe. There's one way to believe.
Yes.
Allah says it all the time. Rasulullah, and so to go back to what Amr mentioned about, pantheism and how they want to incorporate all of the religions. Every belief system, every belief leads to, they have this idea that this is going to lead you to God. And so, or lead you to Allah. But this is not the case. But you can see that in his understanding. Talking about Kareem's in his understanding, where you can have 99 cases against a person, and then you take one and make the excuse. Now imagine, just think logically. If you had 99 pieces of evidence and exhibits to present to the court that I am guilty, and then you say, well, there's one here that we can possibly interpret it this way, so let him go.
Yeah.
No one would be comfortable with that. But you're going to be comfortable with your belief and your akhirah and the fact that you will either go to Jahannam or to Jannah based on that,
Yeah.
and you can't fall for it.
I'm about to say,
Crazy.
if you can find 99 problems with your beliefs, listen, you might need to find a different belief, but that's all I want to say. All right.
Yeah. And that's the thing with this whole 99. First of all, it comes from, there's a hadith that's maybe weak, that's similar, but we do have the idea in Islam of, you know, we heard all the time, husnul dhan, right? Thinking good of our brothers and sisters.
Oh God,
right?
That phrase has been ruined for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly, right. And it doesn't apply to stuff like this, because what happens when someone commits shirk, right? In the Islamic Sharia compliant, because we're talking about, right? He's like, oh, if they're not breaking Sharia, right, then it's okay. But in a Sharia-like country, if someone commits shirk, open shirk, outward public shirk, there's a process. They bring them in, they question them. What did you mean by this, right? Get clarification, teach them, educate them, and if they're still upon their belief, then eventually it most likely leads to death or expulsion from the country, right?
Mhm.
So there's a process for it. It's not like, okay, well, like Mubarak said, we could find one way to like kind of excuse you for this clear shirk you're making, and we're going to let that ride. Now imagine if you did that in an Islamic society. Islam would be lost because everybody would just develop their own belief and like, well, you know what? I can use this weak hadith over here to kind of justify what you're saying. So yeah, go ahead. Give the khutbah. Right? And then, yeah, and then I want to say this to him and the Sufis, because we know enough about Sufism and how they act and how they respond and all what they deal with, that they actually don't practice this. Because what he's really saying is that when you see Sufis committing shirk or kufr, you give them 99 excuses or 99 ways, and if you could find one that excuses them from it, then you give them that.
Mhm.
But I would ask the question, do they do that with the Wahhabis and Salafis?
Nope.
No, they don't.
You guys are all deviants who have hated Tasawwuf for no reason at all. And also, the Sufis don't do the other Sufis either. Sufi takes, listen, that person's a deviant, stay far from him as far as you can. Like he's not a part of our creed or our Tasawwuf, whatever. You guys are hypocrites.
But here's the link to take bay'ah to our group though. While you're at. You stay away from them, but here goes our link.
Yeah,
our affiliate link.
Exactly.
Make sure you use my code.
So I can get a referral. Our referral bonus for
Exactly.
by 10%.
Yeah, but I'll just say on this to add to your point, Dr. Griffin, is that, and just to clarify, are you referring to the hadith that may or may not be weak, where it's like make 70 excuses for your brother? Is that the one that you're referring to? Yeah. And so they say that this one has some weakness in it, but the sentiment behind it is good.
Yeah.
However, but even in this, it's misapplied.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, what I think when he's saying if you find 99, things that could make it kufr, and you find one thing that maybe you can save his belief system, because that's what he said, this is 100% wrong. What we do is actually the opposite. For instance, if we see something that looks clearly like kufr, for instance, a person making sujood to a grave, what we say is, this is kufr. The excuse that we make is, if he's ignorant, if he doesn't know that, maybe Allah will forgive him.
Right.
But we're not gonna say, okay, well, back in the day, during there was some in some old times there were people that made sujood, and we don't do that.
Right.
What we do is we see what clearly is kufr. If it is kufr, we say this is an act of kufr. This is shirk, what he's doing. The excuse that we make is maybe he's ignorant of it.
Yeah.
That's it. So, and Allah will determine whether he'll be punished for that kufr or that shirk or not, if he's ignorant.
Yeah.
But it's still going in the books as shirk, and then we should tell people, don't do it, don't believe in it. So he's doing the opposite. Yeah, he's doing the opposite by saying, well, let's make an excuse for him. Okay, if he does it, it's okay. You know. So then you could lead, a whole group of people to all be making sujood to a grave. We've seen this happen before, where people are doing it.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. He did the opposite, and a lot of these do. It doesn't matter what deviant group you want to find, they all do this. They have to find perceived backdoors or some loophole or some sort of excuse to get in, and then they expand on it. So once you give the concession, okay, this thing that we think is kufr, but we've made an excuse for it, then it's like you just let them in the house a little bit, and now they're in there, they got their feet up on the couch, and they're going in your fridge and everything else. So that's what they do. They say, oh well, this, we can make an excuse for that, and then they got a whole belief system based on something that's kufr.
Yeah. And then you see this all the time with these deviant groups, is that they actually back into their beliefs. Like, well, they back into the Qur'an and Sunnah, I would say. They start with their belief, and then they go backwards into trying to justify it by any means necessary, right? So like they'll quote at one point, you'll see like at one point they'll like, oh, Ibn Taymiyyah, he's a deviant, he's this and that, right? But if he said something that kind of justifies what they believe, Taymiyyah said this.
They're gonna quote him immediately.
Yeah, exactly. So here he has a lengthy little spot where he actually explains tasawwuf. So we'll play that. Oh, whoops.
What is tasawwuf? Like, what is the whole thing based on anyway? It's based on the idea that you can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if you see him, and that the highest form of getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to know Allah. And it's a heart knowledge, because we see him only in the next world. So we don't see him with our eyes in this life, but with the eye of the heart. And there's a saying that goes back to Imam Ali, where he said that, like, if the veil was lifted, I wouldn't increase in certainty one bit. Meaning I have full certainty already, so I don't need to die to have more certainty of Allah. I already have full certainty. So the idea that one can have yaqeen in this life and live as if they see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the promise of tasawwuf. And so the reason we follow Sufi shuyukh is that we believe that that guy is someone who has that, who's reached that level, and who's authorized by somebody else, also attained that level of closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and said, you know, my student is a good guy, and he knows what I know, and he can teach people the science of, and it's not. So
that's his explanation of tasawwuf. And the one thing I wanted to mention on here, and this is another big problem I have, and I think it's like a big plot hole in the whole tasawwuf game, right? And it's kind of like this. Imagine you're gambling, right? Say gambling's halal. And I come to you, Mubarak, and I was like, I got this new business, right? Where you can bet on who's going to win the championship, right? There's 12 teams in this league, basketball league. You pick one, and if you win, like you're gonna win $1 million, right? You're gonna be your descendants, and everybody's gonna be rich and all that. But if your team loses, you're going to hell, right?
Damn.
Right? So that's the stakes. Like you're gonna be right, or no, let's say hell. We'll put it in heaven. You and your descendants are gonna get killed, right? One, you're rich, your family's rich forever. The next one is, you're going to be poor or get killed and murdered. This is basketball league. You just got to pick a team, right? You got to pick the team that's going to win. But at the end of the day, and you're like, okay, well, where's the league at? Where's the teams televised? I want to watch them play or whatever. Like, yeah, you can watch them practice or whatever, but I'm just letting you know that we actually don't announce who wins the game. We don't let anybody know, right? Because, and this might be a bad analogy, but the whole thing I'm trying to get at is tasawwuf, which he says is based on trying to get, pretty much, I'm going to sum it up, getting close to Allah, right? Okay, cool. So we as Sufis pick somebody who we believe obtained that high rank because they know how to get there and they're going to show us how to get there. But the plot hole is you actually don't know if they got there. So you're like, okay, I'm going to pick this guide who's saying like, yeah, I know how to get to the top of this mountain, but has no resume. And there's actually no way you can verify if he gets you there. And when he's leading you on the path, you actually never really get there. But then you come down the mountain like, yeah, I was there. You start telling other people you were there. Now follow me. it's like it's basically a religious Ponzi scheme, because we know it's Islamic principle. We actually don't know a person's station with Allah unless Allah or Rasul told us, right? They told us the 10 promised paradise. They told us this person's a prophet. They told us the best prophets, the best after the prophet. We know these people have obtained success, right? Anybody outside of that, we have hadiths. Oh, they looked at this guy fighting in the battle. Look at him go. He's surely going to be a martyr. Rasul's like, keep on watching. Keep on watching, right? We have people that were outwardly look pious and practice Islam. Then we find out like, oh, they're an Israeli agent, right? Or a Jewish agent. Let's go back. We have history of munafiqs. We have all these history and all this thing telling us like, hey, you actually don't know what's in someone's heart. Right? You don't know how close they are with Allah. And then you stake your whole hereafter on, well, I think that guy has it, and I'm just going to follow him blindly because he's going to lead me there. It makes no sense whatsoever.
And listen, I know it always just sounds so simple because whenever we say it, but if you were going to follow someone, right, who you believe actually got there, wouldn't the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ be the person you follow? Like, you're gonna follow your leader who followed someone else who was a deviant. Go back 18 chains. Like, come on now. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is right there. And listen, let's say, okay, listen, you're like, okay, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is perfect, right? He made no mistakes. I can't even get to where he was. You got Abu Bakr, you got Umar, you got Uthman, you got Ali, Abu Bakr. You have freaking Ibn Auf. You have all these Sahaba you can follow, thousands of them, thousands, and you choose some Pakistani guy with a beard and a big belly. Like, come on now, like,
or a white guy from like Minnesota. Like,
Yeah, I mean it's like this. If they were like, man, we all this time we didn't know, humans can't fly, whatever. But there's one guy who says, you know what, I can fly. Oh, really? Yeah, I learned how to fly. Yeah, I can show you. I can teach you how to fly, whatever.
Yeah.
But you never actually see him fly. But he's like, yeah, just telling you, yeah. Well, you flap your wings like this, and if you once your heart, you have to believe it. You have to do these certain things, certain exercises, believing. You stretch your arms, and he's telling you all these different techniques to fly.
Yep.
But you never actually will ever be able to confirm or see him actually fly.
Yes.
So it's like. And I do believe that I asked, it may have been Karim, it may have been another Sufi, but it's like, how can you confirm that your sheikh is rightly guided, or this special person, the awliya of Allah, or friend of Allah, or whatever, over any other sheikh or any other person for that matter? How do you determine and confirm it? And I have yet to see one to actually be able to do it. To actually give me anything concrete. Okay, if you see this, and this, that means he's an awliya of Allah. He's a friend of Allah. He's the one who can see Allah with his heart, or whatever the heck they're talking about. They actually don't have any criteria. It's actually up in the air. You don't know. It really is about that own person and their weakness, and they having some susceptibility and gullibility to be a Sufi. It's themselves, and that person, that cult leader, that Sufi sheikh is just taking advantage of your weakness, your gullibility, and your desire, to be something special or better than what you are. You think, oh yeah, I got something. No, you don't have anything. You're just a weirdo.
Yeah. Yeah, and they'll say things like, "Oh, there's signs." Like I think that's what he mentioned when you asked him that. I was like, "Oh, there's signs of a wali. They make salat. They make the hajj." It was like, "Oh, they're a Muslim. You're a Muslim, okay, right?" So, and like, yes, we do have this idea of like we see people that we believe are righteous and we believe they're close to Allah. Alhamdulillah, we do have that, and we can look to these people as guides and take inspiration from them and all that. But at the same time, we don't turn our minds off. We don't ignore the Qur'an and the Sunnah, and we don't put our blind faith in them, because we also know that they're human beings and can make mistakes and have their own issues and commit sins, right? And it's all under this whole guise of like, again, to become one with Allah. It's like it's so crazy, right? So you start by saying Sufism. The core tenet of Sufism is, in a nutshell, to believe that we are already one with Allah. But also the goal of Sufism is to keep on worshiping and raise to this rank so that we become one with Allah. Why are we working to something that we actually already are?
Mm-hmm.
What's the purpose there? Like, it's just so many. Anyway, I don't want to go too far
I'm
into
about
it.
to say, listen,
Hey, listen, hold up. It's just like there's also an element of that Hindu belief of reincarnation or
Mhm.
whatever, you know, and it also contradicts their idea that, you know, we are that part of Allah. It's like this. If you have, you know, for instance, you know, your toe, for instance, is part of your body. It's you.
Yeah.
No, if your toe is doing wiggling and jumping and because it wants to be the heart, I mean, get out of here. Get out of here. You're the toe. Be the toe. You be the toe. You're not raising up. You know, you're not gonna be the eyebrow. You're not gonna be a nose. You're a toe. That's what you're gonna be. And so it's like to be trying to be you're the creation. So how are you then ascending? Because you've been created to say, are we saying that Allah changes?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's kufr all the way around. You know, I know we're
Exactly.
kind of playing around with it, but it doesn't make sense. It's ridiculous, you know, and it definitely is kufr.
Yeah.
I'm about to say the fact of the matter is, if you want to believe something, you will find a way to believe it. And also, humans, listen, as humans, bro, we're victims of this happenstance. Like if someone says, "Oh, I saw Mubarak move the moon," right? I'm like, all right, Mubarak move the moon. Yeah, I saw him move the moon. Okay, listen. I'm gonna go to Tennessee, Mubarak. Listen, I need to see you move the moon in front of me. I need to see you point your finger in the sky and move the moon. If it doesn't happen, bro, come on. I'm not believing Mubarak move the moon. Like, nah, I promise I saw it, bro, it was AI.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing, bro?
He moved the moon after Jafar landed on it with his rocket ship.
Only moon he moved was a moon pie. Moved the moon. He moved the moon pie for the.
I remember them jumps.
The
moon pie jumps. But here's this, and again, we make light of it, but it's really not a light situation because when you go down these goofy Sufi rabbit holes, you start saying stuff like what he's about to say in this clip.
So he said people were having very strong spiritual experiences around the Sheikh at that time. Like they would start like making dhikr spontaneously. They would be overcome with states. They would like shout the names of Allah, and things like that. And he said that the Sheikh was able to elicit these things just from being around you and stuff. And I think this is where things get dangerous because Islam recognizes that there are spiritual powers that people can have despite not being 100% righteous.
Right.
It can either be through controlling jinn, it can be through the dark arts and black magic, or it can be through not being fully cooked. So he is a Sufi and he's done stuff, but he's not finished. And somewhere along the way, he got caught up with the fact that he has abilities and he can do things and he can make people feel elated, but he fell short of wanting to reach Allah fully, and it became about him and the stuff he can do. That's also Pharaonic. That's Pharaonic, because some of the Sufis, they say that the reason Pharaoh said in the Qur'an, "I am your Lord Most High," is because he had a spiritual experience. And then
okay.
That's the clip. So a lot of stuff said before, talking about spiritual experiences, powers, abilities to do supernatural things, yada yada, and some of the Sufis, whoever, interpret the Quran to say that when Pharaoh said, "I'm the Lord Most High," it was because essentially he was a Sufi who had a spiritual state like these half-baked Sufis, and then he lost his way or it became about him. I mean, connecting. Okay, we're good.
I don't think these people read the Quran. I mean, they may know one ayah, فَقَالَ أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. But if you just search Fir'aun and look at all the things that in the context of all the things that he was involved in, even just in the Qur'an, you realize that this was a system, and that they worshipped the
pharaohs.
the
pharaohs.
Pharaoh,
Yeah.
Not just him, right? It was like, were all the pharaohs getting spiritual?
Yeah.
Every pharaoh was said to be a god by Egyptian culture. Every single one.
Yeah. So this is just a made up story. It literally is a Sufi story. It's a Sufi fable, which they're very famous for doing.
Yeah.
They do this very, very well. I don't want to say that very well, but they do it a lot.
Mhm.
And so that's one thing. You know, but the Qur'an, even in Quran, says it more than one occasion. So what they're saying is that because, you know, it's almost as if it's saying, well, you know, he had a spirit, and that's why he said he was Lord Most High. What about all the things that he was doing? Like he also, so when, and look at this. They try to say that these spiritual experiences are, you know, there's something good can come up from. Okay, number one, do we have any instances where Rasulullah ﷺ was eliciting spiritual experiences from people, making them yell out who randomly, spontaneous dhikr, or whatever they want to say? There's no instances of this. Rasulullah ﷺ was a human being, and he got wahi from Allah in Revelation, but he was a human being just like everyone else aside from that. And he did not do that. If you want to say, just like we went, the Muhsinin, he was the number one of all the Muhsinin. He was number one. He's the guy. He's the example. And he didn't do any of that stuff. He was not, you know, coming around and people were spontaneously hooing and doing these things. There's no accounts of that happening. Yeah.
The Holy Ghost,
you know? Yeah. So, I mean, but we do have examples of people who do practice magic and who they don't control jinns. The jinns actually control them. But people who deal with jinns doing that. So it's safe to say, if we look at Rasulullah and his companions, his students or whatever, they didn't do any of this stuff. But we do know magicians and shayateen elicit spontaneous, unintelligible responses from people and make them sick and make them have different feelings that they're not in control of. This is what the shayateen do. This is what magicians do. This is what witches and people who practice black magic do. Yep. So just using your brain will tell you that this is not the sunnah of Rasulullah. It's not the way of the companions. It's not part of Islam. It's actually part of black magic and witchcraft. There's no other way around it.
Yeah. And I would say when you look at these spiritual experiences, now as a Muslim, we look at the top levels of worship, right? And the things that are like the highest level, like when we want to worship Allah, this is what we do. What do? We pray, right? That's like number one. Number two, we recite Qur'an, right? Top two. So for those examples, when we're talking about spiritual states, is it permissible in our salat to be jumping, moving around, having spontaneous combustions and emotions and all that? No, we're supposed to be very controlled, relaxed, right? We can have emotions and cry and that sort of thing, but there's set positions, right? Very like how you would go to in front of a king or something. Like you want to compare it to in the secular world, like I'm going to be respectful. I'm not going to walk in here and like the gesture, kicking and hollering and dancing and all that no, I'm trying to show reverence, right? That's laid out for us. Reading Quran, right? A lot of scholars say like, you know, that whole like sometimes it's natural when you're reciting, you start getting into a little, but some people do it as they think they're actually part of the worship. When they're reciting, they start waving and bobbing and
back and forth. Yeah,
we're not supposed to do that, right? We have the ayat where, like, you know, Allah tells us something like, "Don't rush, calmly say it." You know, calmly say it. I'm going to put it in your heart. But you have these examples, and where I was going with this is, if the experiences these spiritual states are also being experienced by non-Muslim groups, whether it be Buddhists, yoga people meditating, chanting, Christians, whatever, and you're basically what they're trying to achieve is some kind of physical euphoria, which can be induced by a lot of different means, right? and you're tying this to your spirituality, that's pretty much what's going on here. Because, for instance, who also like would like we could pull up videos of this, but something I remember as a kid, there was a documentary done on Michael Jackson.
Mhm.
And I used to love Michael Jackson as a kid. I had the red leather coat. I don't know if
Yeah.
I was a
I
kid,
really-
right? So, but anyway, it was amazing to me that he would literally like look at women in the audience and they would
That
pass
thing.
out,
Yep.
right? Now, if someone is so obsessed, which is pretty much like we could make a strong argument, like this is shirk, that be this in awe of somebody, right? And that devoted, that like they just look at you and you experience some kind of spiritual or physical or whatever, some kind of euphoria. Obviously, it's something that you have a wrong connection with a human being, not with Allah, right? Because if your the sheikh walks by you and you're just so, happy or whatever, you just start going to a state and your reaction is to dhikr, which is most likely because you want to impress the sheikh, something is wrong. So anyway, it's long story short, Islam is not about spiritual experiences. It's not about, I felt this way and it made me feel euphoric and this and that, and I lost control, and how they say that I got drunk in the sea of this, like all these. That's not what Islam is about, because as Mubarak said, you have to find examples of this in the Sunnah. So if Rasulullah was walking around the Sahabas and there's no instances of the Sahabas who were better than all of us, of them randomly, spontaneously standing up, holding hands and getting into dhikr chants, then why, when we see someone do that nowadays, do we think that's something positive? Clearly, it's not, right? I mean, that should be clear, but it just shows that your deen actually isn't Islam. Your prophet actually isn't Rasulullah. Your deen is that cult, and your prophet is actually that leader, that Sufi sheikh that you want to be so much like. So
absolutely. And for some reason, like the Sufis love the story of Prophet Musa. They love it. They love it, and they love to try to misinterpret it. Right? Listen, I've read the story of Prophet Musa. I've listened to the story of Prophet Musa. Whatever they derived from that clearly was not there for me. I must have missed that entirely. I must have missed the part of Fir'aun being a Sufi sheikh who had a spiritual experience called the Holy Ghost. Listen, when Fir'aun said that he could kill folks too and cause life or death, like that must have been his freaking like, wow, I have reached the freaking Islamicon of my time. Because like, what other nonsense have you derived from this?
So the thing is, you can ask the Sufi, and listen, the next time either one of y'all come across a Sufi, especially if they had that idea of Fir'aun having a spiritual experience. So think about this. The Sufi shuyukh, the Sufi sheikhs, they give their murids mawlad and different programs to do or whatever, so that they can have this spiritual experience or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What did Fir'aun do that gave him that led him to have a spiritual experience to the point where it was so high that he said, "Ana rabbukum al-a'la." So what did he do? Because this is the thing.
Great question.
The Sufis, you give this little roadmap to get to the spiritual state or whatever, to get to the spiritual heights. Fir'aun somehow got there. What did he do? Allah tells us some of the stuff that he did, and none of it was good.
Well, what happened was, Musa was around that time, which means Khidr was around that time. Khidr was probably his sheikh, and then he lost him.
Khidr was advising him on what to do and said, listen, you need to do the shirk to guide Musa properly to Allah, obviously. Come on,
I guarantee you some Sufi somewhere. I guarantee it. There's some Sufi somewhere that's saying that Fir'aun was actually Khidr. I guarantee you that
you know what? I wouldn't even take that bet because you're probably right.
100%.
Oh man.
They were saying didn't
this
understand
next one
that he
here
knew.
is, and this is the one that out of everything that happened in this interview, for some reason, this is the thing that stood out the most, because I was like, oh my gosh, because up to this point I was like, oh, this guy's kind of like, sensible. He's going to give us like a realistic approach to Sufism, until I mean, a lot of the stuff he was saying was still like, but then when he said this, I was like, oh nah, he's lost the plot, because, and we had to like redirect him. But I'll just share the clip real quick.
I don't know, man. Like I saw it, and it's
Hold on, let me go back.
Like it's someone tells you when you fall in love.
It's any sort of decision on.
Let me go back to the
questions you would ask, or some things that you would, kind of be thinking of to base any sort of decision on.
So Mubarak.
So just real quick, Mubarak asked him like, what does he suggest for people that are thinking about following a sheikh? Like, what type of questions they should ask to, like, before they actually make a decision to take bay'ah or follow any type of sheikh? And again, he was being sincere. This was genuinely his first thought of when to answer this question, and you'll see what he says.
Your question's really good, but it's like when you fall in love, it's not rational. Like she walks in the room and you're crazy about her in 2 seconds. Like if someone tells you, like, explain why you're crazy about this girl, what happened? Like what happened to you? Like, I don't know, man. Like I saw her and it's
Oh yeah, I love it.
Well, so if we use that, and then I had to like steer the ship back because I thought he was gonna like then pivot and like say something sensible. He just stopped. Like, let me see, disconnected.
All right,
here we go. We're back on. So yeah, like I thought he was gonna like, he was just saying that to like be funny, but then also get back to like what you really should do. And then I steered him back like, well, okay, when your senses come back to you, because we've all had this falling in love, or I love her, but we're rational, like, okay, that wasn't a good decision. What should you actually do? But it just shows that literally this is why he decided to take bay'ah to somebody, because he's seen somebody he liked, and he talked about how he's seen the sheikh, and he just, oh, this guy's from like another era, and look how he dresses and how he speaks, and he was just caught up in that, in his feelings. And that was the main reason why he decided to start following the sheikh. And I really wanted to point this out because it's a very subjective way to make major decisions of your life, right? We have a Man's World podcast. We talk about like choosing a spouse and making decisions like that. And we would never advise anyone. I hope he doesn't advise his daughters or his sons to choose a spouse like this. Like, yeah, if you see someone and you're just like so overwhelmed, but like, oh, I love this person, just go ahead and marry them. No, you wouldn't tell your own kid to do that. So why are you telling people to choose their spiritual path this way? But I also wanted to point out that he criticized the guest that we had, saying that, you can't denounce a sheikh or their practices because of your subjective experiences. So you're telling me I could choose a sheikh by my subjective experience, but I can't choose to leave them by my subjective experience. Total contradiction.
And see, it's always the case. Every single deviant belief system, group, or whatever, they will be filled with contradictions. And this one is filled with contradictions to the actual Islam. I'm supposed to say these people do not read the Qur'an.
Mm-hmm.
Even from just Amma. What does it say? كلا إن كتاب الفجار لفي سجين. So the al-fujjar, you know what a fujjar is? ليفجر. A fujjar is a person who, whatever they see, they act on. They're driven by their desires, drive them to do it. They're impulsive like that. They see something attractive and they have to act on it. Yeah. So he's like, oh, when you see a girl, you just fall in love with her. This is the type of thing that a fujjar does. It's not like a person who is a Muslim or maybe be pious that might see a girl and be a woman and be attracted to them.
Right.
But a fujjar would definitely have a have a some sort of visceral reaction to something, and he's describing his sheikh, which is a little weird, but and then be like, I'm gonna follow them. This is the type of action of a fujjar, you know. So this is in opposition to, you know, how a person is supposed to conduct themselves. You're not supposed to just follow your desires. You had a feeling, you saw something and you act on it like that. Like to equate how you choose who you're going to follow as far as beliefs and practices to get you closer to Allah, to the way that you would be attractive to any random woman that you don't even know. You just see them in 2 seconds, you're in love. This is the person, I'm telling you, they always have some, like, this something that is off there. Even like usually when a person is young, they don't have as much experience with women. They're like this.
Yeah.
They might not be around enough of them. They might not have experienced them. But the person who is a little bit wiser, a little bit older, they might be like, oh, wow, that woman is attractive or whatever. But they don't, they don't do that.
Right.
And, you know, so this person is showing that he is, as far as spiritually, or even just wisdom-wise, I mean, his growth is stunted, or he just doesn't have it. He's just not there.
And that's a good point. And this is the type of people that these actual like Sufi groups actually target, right?
Yeah.
So that's like a vulnerability. It's like, okay, I'm new to Islam or I'm new to studying Islam, and it's like, you know, the first like, and we all experience it, but we don't go to these extremes. Where like maybe it's the first time you sat with like a real knowledgeable sheikh. You're like, oh man, this like it like when you're getting Islamic knowledge and stuff, like it isn't. It's easy to misappropriate that feeling with Allah teaching you with like that individual, right? So, but like I get what you're saying, and it's almost like a new shahada type feeling where like this is the first time like, oh man, this guy speaks so good, and like, oh my goodness, like look how he's speaking, look how he's dressed, look how but you know what, if you actually realize that, well, there's a lot of shuyukh, there's a lot of pious people, there's a lot of knowledge people, you actually start realizing that, oh, they're all here. And then you actually start studying, oh, this person makes mistakes here or there. There's a lot of great ulama, da'is, personalities that we love, and like we may not know them, but we see their content, we see their work, and we have a love for them because of their personality, how they carry themselves, the certain knowledge they have. We can't take that to extremes, and especially again, placing our whole hereafter on a gut feeling, right? And again, we go back to the marriage example of like, you should not pick a spouse based off of just you've seen somebody and like it's love at first sight.
I like them, yeah.
Like that's crazy. So here we go. Let me share this other place on the screen. What's this next one we got coming up? Okay, this is Amr mentioned it earlier. But he tells this Sufi story about his sheikh.
Like it wasn't about that for him. And he back in the day, a friend of mine told me this crazy story that the sheikh came to the U.S. He's American by birth, but he's been living in the Middle East since the 70s. But he came to the U.S. and he was leading a sahaba, like a retreat for his murids. And he had a morning lesson, and then he said, we're going to start again at 3 p.m. Guys, go have lunch and come back. So the murids went off and they got late and they reached at 3:30 and they said, we entered the hall and the sheikh was teaching an empty room. We got freaked out. We got scared. Like, who's he talking to? And they start having thoughts like he's speaking to the jinn, he's teaching the unseen people. And at the end of the lesson, they came up to the sheikh and they said to him, you know, Sidi, you were teaching an empty room.
Make lunch with me while I tell you all the things I do not do with my money and why you might be struggling because of that. The first thing that...
And he said, I teach for the sake of Allah. And Allah was there, he was listening to me. And so it was like, yeah, he wasn't doing it for them. He was doing it for Allah. So a sign is the sheikh shouldn't be keen on numbers. And I know tariqas that recruit. There are tariqas that actively.
All right, wait. All right, listen. We're gonna have to end this show soon. But this man on his own page all right, had a recruitment link that Joffrey and I joined. Like, what are you talking about, bro? I'm part of the Tariqa. What, bro? This is you. Like, what are you talking about?
So he says on our show, and we're gonna have to wrap this up. We didn't get through anything, but pretty much you guys are getting this. But look at all the contradictions, because he says on our show, if a sheikh is recruiting, that's a red flag. That's a big red flag. Then within a week or two later, he posts this on his website and pretty much says, Assalamu alaikum, for those wishing to take the Shadili Tariq Bayat from the Qutub, Sheikh Nukela, please pass the following information to them. Date of the conference call. And then his comment on the side, please go to the link posted below and register for the call. If you do not register, it may be difficult to get your details to the sheikh. Each person taking the tariq should fill out a separate form and send their details. Now, Mubarak, if I told you, listen, join R2F, right? But we're not really into recruiting or anything like that. Like, we don't recruit. I actually don't like recruiting members of R2F. Then you join, right? You join R2F, and then maybe a month or two down the line, I was like, listen, I want you to set up a consistent monthly recruitment ceremony to get people to join our group. I mean, you can't make this. You can't even make this stuff up. This is like real life right now.
I mean, think about this. When he talked about the sheikh, speaking to empty room, and it's not about followers or not about this. That would be this is the complete opposite, complete contradiction of that you're inviting people when he's like, I don't even want to speak to anybody. I'd rather just do it in an empty room or, whatever little things are floating around. So it's just, like I said, time and time again, if we said it once, we said it a million times. They will always be constantly contradicting themselves.
Yes. Yep. And then even after he did that, he came on commenting when we were interviewing the sister, the ex-member of his group, and he doubled down. To be fair, they, meaning us, because he's talking about his own group, don't recruit unmarried people or anyone for that matter. Like, the sheikh really doesn't care about having followers or numbers. But again, this is a monthly call. Like, every month you can go to this link and they have people taking bayat to the sheikh. Every single month, 12 months a year, they're taking new members. But he ain't really about that. I mean, come on. All right, we'll cover one more thing and we'll kind of wrap it up. Let me see what's the best one. And just for the teaching the empty room, there was some red flags there I'll mention quickly. Is that you notice, and this is what these guys do, they're very crafty at manipulating. Because remember, he was teaching the empty room. When he said that, my first instinct was like, he wants them to think that he's teaching the jinn or angels. That was the goal of that, right?
Red flag, yeah.
Like, oh, where he goes with this. And then he admitted, like, yeah, we thought he was teaching the jinns and the angels. Like, yep, so he got his goal. Mm-hmm. Then when they asked him about it, did he say, I wasn't teaching the jinns or angels? Did he deny it? No. He just said, I'm doing it for Allah's sake.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter. Believe whatever they're believing, because I'm pretty sure some of those people that are carrying on telling this dumb story about teaching empty room. If I want to go give food to the poor, right? So I set up a table and there's no poor people show up, but I'm just dumping the food on the ground. And someone comes up and says, hey, what are you doing? Hey, my intention was to feed the poor and the law's here.
I mean, these people are so there's a type of personality that also does these, that are cult leaders like this, and they can never accept any sort of them looking bad or negative in a certain way that perceived to be, less than stellar or whatever they are, right? For instance, somebody was saying that the old boy Sheikh Jelani, right? He's supposed to be able to turn into a hawk and fly around. He's told his talibs that he watches them in their houses, so their wives should wear hijab inside the home and stuff like that, so he can teleport. And so one time someone was saying, "Yeah, I was with Jelani, and he was walking, and at this time he was in his 60s or 70s or whatever, however old he was, but he was walking or whatever." and he stumbled and almost fell. He almost face planted. And he was like, when the Talib saw that he was walking and almost fell. And you know how sometimes if you almost trip and fall, if you do catch yourself, you look almost worse than if you just fell down. Like you just like you literally
a bit.
I mean, you look ridiculous trying to stay up, but you know, it's like okay, so but he almost fell. So what he did was he said, when I'll tell you, it was K2 that was saying this. It was funny because, and I was thinking to myself, this is so dumb. But anyway, I just kept quiet. But he said, yeah, and Shaji, he almost fell down. Then he told us, he said, yeah, my physical body can't keep up with my spiritual body. And I'm thinking, this clown is just old and almost fell like every other human being. But instead, he got to be like, oh, his physical body was moving quick. And I mean, his spiritual body was moving quick and his physical body just tripped. So your physical body is stronger than your spiritual body, obviously. Right. Because it nearly took you out. You know, it's like, but these are the things that they do. Instead of being like, yeah, man, I'm getting old. You know, I almost tripped and fell. Man, there was a stump in the way, whatever. Yeah, I almost fell. Instead, you got to make up a lie just to seem like you're perfect or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it's very clear because if he did have this weird notion that he's going to get blessings by teaching, he's going to get blessings for teaching by teaching an empty room. Maybe he's maybe he really did believe that. Why would he tell y'all that? Right? Because like if he's this humble, pious sheikh and he's only doing it for Allah's sake, he would either say, oh, I wasn't doing nothing, or I was reviewing or something, right? That, but it was just, he wanted to elicit a feeling from these people he was telling it to, and he got his goal. And we'll end on this one. And this was a big one because, and this is like kind of like the cherry on the top. And this was one of the, also, I think it's probably the second thing that I'll always remember from this interview. And it pretty much shows his whole determination, or I guess methodology for determining what's right and what's wrong. And this is after he explained how dancing and holding hands rhythmically swaying and this and that is permissible and all this. But this was his justification. Oh, whoops.
So it's permissible to stand up in a circle. It's permissible for men to hold hands. It's permissible for men to say the names of Allah, and it's permissible for them to move in unison. And so permissible plus permissible plus permissible equals permissible. And this is the reasoning of the Shafi'i school. Some of the other madhabs are a bit more strict on this practice of how.
So there it is. When he said that permissible plus permissible plus permissible equals permissible, for all those out there, I know it sounds nice and it's like a nice little sound bite and you like easily remember it, and so I could justify a lot. It's wrong. And that's exactly why it's wrong, is because you could justify anything by doing that. And when we were talking about this off camera and behind the scenes, we came up with so many ludicrous examples of permissible plus permissible plus permissible that when you hear it, you're like, okay, that's obviously not permissible, And I'm pretty sure you guys can do that as well as at home. This is not anything like an Islamic rule or fiqh rule or anything like that. It does apply in a lot of cases when we're talking about things that do not relate to worship. But the principle to worship is actually the exact opposite of this. Is that, so like basically what he's going down the road is like everything's permissible unless it's clearly stated that it's haram, right? Which is a principle regarding things. But with worship, it's actually the opposite. With worship, everything is impermissible unless shown that it actually is
permissible,
halal or permissible or done by Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in the manner that he did it, commanded by Allah. So we take an opposite approach to worship, and we can't mix the two, because guess what? When you mix the two and add things, that's called what? Innovation. You're creating new work. That's actually the definition. I'm going to add this non-worship thing to my worship. You just created a new type of worship. It's very simple, y'all.
and it's so, and see this, they prey on people who are ignorant, and so like I said, even when I say that to teach aqīdah takes 5 minutes, even within that 5 minutes of teaching aqīdah, the thing is, just like you said, everything is permissible except for things that are clearly explained that are not. But when it comes to religion, when it comes to worship, everything is haram except for what is clearly explained that it is permissible.
Yep.
And now if you take that one step further, where he says permissible plus permissible plus permissible, every single thing, everything that you can possibly do has certain times where it's not permissible. So everything is not in and of itself just permissible all the time. There's nothing that is permissible all the time. Even if you say, okay, well, what about salat? There are times when it's not permissible to make salat. There are times. Well, he another thing he said. Well, he said adhkar. It's permissible to dhikr. There are times when you cannot dhikr in the bathroom, while using the bathroom, or in some instance like that. What else did he say? To dance in unison. It is not permissible to dance for women.
Yeah.
Okay. So, or it's not permissible to dance during salat. You're not supposed to move around. So, what else did he say? He said moving in unison. We cannot line up in salat and start moving and rocking in unison. Now, there is a movement in unison that we do. We're doing it individually, but at the same time. But I wouldn't call it in unison. But even if they want to go there and say, when we go into ruku' and sujood,
it's not rhythmic.
Rhythmic,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's not rhythmic. But everything that he mentioned as far as permissible, there is a time and place where it is not permissible, and that's with everything. So even that argument of just stacking permissible things on top of each other, there are things that will cancel that out. And one of the main things in which permissible things, any permissible thing, is not permissible is when you try to make it an act of worship. Everything becomes haram. It doesn't matter what it is.
Exactly.
You know, eating a sandwich is halal. But if I say, you know what, I'm going to add this to some ritualistic thing that I'm going to make a religious practice out of it, then guess what? For me to eat a sandwich like that is haram. You know, I can't do it. I can't be like, you know, well, I'm going to eat this sandwich. I'm going to get down in sujood, in sajda, and nibble on the sandwich because, you know, I'm thanking Allah for the sustenance while also, you know, you can't add things. So something can be permissible, but it still can be canceled out, you know, if the time or the setting makes it impermissible, or if you try to make it an act of worship.
Yes. Or you try to add it to active words. Like, for instance, like the example, like it's permissible to relieve yourself, right? Yeah. It's permissible to walk. It's permissible to make salat. Is it permissible to relieve yourself while walking, while making salat? No. Right?
Yeah. I mean, like we've been saying all day, there will be so many contradictions, and that's why Islam is very pure. It's clean. It's clear. It's very easy to understand. The only time you will be confused about Islam is when stuff like this, people try to add things, and when it's man-made, when a man or some goofy Sufi or somebody has invented something, it will always get a point we'll be like, man, this is a little nutty. I mean, I'm pretty sure you had those times, Dr. Griffin, where, you know, coming up, you were like, man, this is bad. That's a little off, but you know,
you turn it off like,
yeah. And that's the thing. That's if we want to get people to at least take anything from this show and some of the shows that we've been doing, is that, don't ignore that.
Yeah. That
is a signal. That is a signal that you need to investigate. Draw it back to the Qur'an or the Sunnah. If you can't do it, it's a little bit. Just leave it all together.
I'll end on this story in our time in TMOA. So, and you guys have heard this before, but for any of our new listeners, and the guy that I looked at, he's still a Sufi goofy in the cult. But anyway, we got this notice that the sheikh was sending over these holy relics, right? Sending off holy relics to be kept in our location. And I'm hearing, I'm like, holy relics, like oh wow, like get to see like the sand, you see like the sandal of Rasul Sallam or the cloak of Ali or like something like this, right? Think of some old stuff. He's Akhla Bey, he's gonna have something else passed down to him or something, a shoe, a book, whatever. So we're like literally waiting in the masjid from like to show up, like UPS or whatever, bring them from the plane. They come with these boxes and I'm like, oh yeah, they had a special room made in the masjid to like house them, like they're gonna be housed in this special relic room. They open up the box, they pull them out, and it's picture frames, right? And then it's like 10, 15 of us are like looking. And they pull out these picture frames and they hang them up and around, and it's pictures of relics, right? Pictures of this, pictures of basically the same pictures that you can Google right now and just print. And basically went online, printed pictures of these alleged relics, put them in picture frames and held them on the wall. And then they gave each of us a white cloth and were like, you're not allowed to touch them with your hands, but you can get purified, but you wipe the cloth on the relics and then wipe it on your face. And I swear, we started doing it, and when they were telling us that, I remember looking up and then like 3 or 4 of us all caught each other's eyes like, what the hell are we doing? Right? But then all of us still just went back like, just coming back and get it. But I was just looking at, just seeing even now on my face, I'm just laughing, like thinking about everybody's face, like, are you gonna do it?
I mean, listen, I know we gotta run, but we could go over stories for days. But I remember one guy. You know how every once in a while somebody will stand up like after the salah. It wasn't a Jummah khutbah, but I think it was like after Jummah, like after the Daroos or whatever. The guy, dude, just stood up and he started crying and wailing about how much he loved the sheikh. And he was just talking and he helped us and he guided us. And then he started going into this some weird stuff where everybody's like kind of looking like, yo, bro. Like he started saying I know he sees everything and he's everywhere with us. And he started going off onto some really almost some homo stuff. Like, first people was kind of nodding their head, and then people stopped, and I'm like a teenager this time, and I'm just listening all right. And I think that was, if there was ever a moment for me where I was like, yeah, I was 15 or 16, and just nah, hell no. Nah, there's no way. There's no way. But yeah, I mean, we probably could do a show on just.
Well, I got it on that note. I'm sorry, I got to keep you a couple of minutes long. We won't react to it, but I got to play this clip on that note. I won't say which word triggered it that you said that I got to play this clip, but I got to play this clip.
In the classical books of Sufism, you find that the master-disciple relationship is likened to one between a husband and a wife. And it's mentioned that a murid can only have one sheikh, like a woman can only have one husband. In the Sharia, the woman has one husband and only one man can tell her what to do. Interestingly, this parallel with the husband and wife relationship is very, very deep. So let's go and look at it. Number one, only one husband can tell the wife what to do. Another man can't walk in the house and ask her to do something. So you are under your sheikh's guidance. Number two, husband in the Sharia cannot command his wife to do something that breaks the sacred law. He can ask her to do something that's within the law. And likewise, a genuine sheikh cannot ask a murid to break the sacred law. And if he does, he's not a genuine sheikh and the relationship is not correct. Number two, in the Sharia, a woman cannot initiate a divorce the way a man can. A man can divorce his wife, but a woman has to apply for khula. Likewise, a true murid cannot just leave their sheikh. They have to take permission to leave if they want to leave the path. They can't just abandon their sheikh. Number three, real marriage is based upon a contract that is involving a dowry. The contract with your sheikh is your bay'ah, is your pledge of allegiance. And the dowry that the sheikh pays the murid, the knowledge of Allah that comes through this path. And so the sheikh actually gives you a payment that is worth much more than anything money can buy, which is reaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. The fourth parallel faces an extreme...
And maybe I'll give you a little bit of this.
For the people wondering why, as Sufis, we take a lot of precautions with members of the opposite gender, it's not because we are being unnatural. In fact, it's an admission of our naturalness. The Sufi is the most natural person who doesn't want to pretend to be someone that they're not or pretend to be fake. And since human beings are sexual by nature and the Sufi is the most sexual being.
We'll end it there.
All right. Oh yeah, Allah.
Just real quick on the one about the marriage or whatever. I mean, what is he basing that on? This is what these people just drive me nuts, because it's like he's saying that you cannot get out of your your agreement contract, just like the woman can't. First of all, the woman can't get out. She can get out at any time. She's not held hostage at any time.
Yeah.
I mean, now she would have to get back what she got, and now she doesn't want to do that, then that's a different story. But you can actually get out.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, where is he getting this from? It's not from anywhere. It's made up.
Yeah.
It's like, you ever like one of those you ever like sign up for a subscription service or any of those things? You sign up for the free trial and then you forget about it and then you wind up locked in or whatever. It's like one of those. It's such a scam. It's like, no, you can't get out unless the sheikh lets you out. Do you know? I mean, that's like, I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Like, if you say, okay, for whatever reason, you think he's off of it, you think he's a deviant, you think he's a bad for you, you think he's abusing, whatever. Oh, but I can't leave because I have to get out. So you're gonna go to him and say, hey, can I leave my? That's like him admitting fault, admitting to being wrong. I mean, why would they? You know.
Well, and also this, and if you remember, again, everything he was saying, like you said, the subscription service is a perfect analogy, because they get you in with something and pretty much you're getting into something that you actually don't want to be in. And when you actually want to get out, it's very hard to get out, right? Because he was on when we did our interview with the sister, one of his big defenses of his group was like, you can leave whenever you want. But then he has this video where it's like, nah, you gotta ask permission to go.
yeah. And it's like I had a service I was paying for like on LegalZoom or something.
Yeah.
It was like $250 a year.
Yeah.
And every year I would forget that it was there and they would charge me. So when it came around for like 3 years, I was ready, but there's always something in the way for me to be able to cancel it. So first they were like, okay, you have to have another registered agent. Like, it was like a service from a nonprofit that I was doing.
Yeah.
I said, you have to have another registered agent take over this service for us to cancel it. And I'm like, do I have to have a registered agent? They say you don't have to have a registered agent, but we can only transfer the service to another registered agent. Like, we can't, like, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So I tried so many different things, and every year they would get me. So I finally just had to go to the bank and say, listen, next month there's a charge that's recurring. You have to cancel this thing. And so I had to pay a fee to the bank for them to cancel it. So I had to pay the bank money to stop them from taking money that I was trying to cancel. So so the thing is, it's very similar to that.
You when you're signing up, you can cancel at any time.
And anytime, cancel at any time. Yeah, but this is the same thing. This is what they're doing basically.
Yeah.
It's a predatory subscription service where it's like, yeah, you can cancel, you can leave, but you have to. It's like insurance.
Yeah.
If you cancel your car insurance, you will get a letter in the mail unless you show proof that you got insurance with a different carrier. It's just like that. They forced it on you.
Yeah, and I think what as everyone, we're gonna call out real quick, is that just take from this show. This is old school R2F. Is like, we ain't did a show like this in a minute, 2.5 hours. Right. I hope y'all enjoyed it. We're going to clip it up for you guys. But take the lessons from this, is that when you're listening to these guys that are clearly Sufi, clearly promoting Sufism, clearly promoting their own sheikhs under the guise of like they're just trying to spread knowledge and this all kumbaya, right? Look at it with some skepticism, right? And you'll see that there's contradictions everywhere. You'll actually see the cult tactics in play. It's just dressed up and looks nice, and it's easier to digest. But these are cult tactics, right? And he doesn't, I'm pretty sure he doesn't recognize it. And if he does watch this or not, or people send him clips, he's probably going to deny all that. That's human nature. But maybe he'll reflect at his own words, his own actions, and see like, oh, I'm actually contradicting myself on a lot of different things. But mainly for our audience, we had to do this just to clear up any misconceptions. We don't want to promote any of this type of stuff on our network, on our channel, on our platform. So if you have questions, email us. R2. Yep, go ahead.
And just listen, I know I spoke about this earlier I said about someone would watch our show with him and say we do a good job. For me, obviously there was a bunch of red flags during his whole interview, and we haven't got to the whole thing yet. But towards the end of the interview, all right, when he started to explain the Hoot Lamakan, I said, all right. All right. Pack him up, bro. In Pakistan? Like, come on. What we got going on here?
Still in Pakistan. Yeah. But I will say this on a serious note. We do encourage and we invite any Sufi who believes, firmly in whatever we invite you to come and be, it's like a deposition, or interrogation or whatever. Just defend your beliefs. Just come on, and maybe you might convince us of something that we don't know. Why it should be, believed or followed or practiced or whatever. I can say, for anybody who's listening, who is thinking about being a Sufi, is a Sufi, was a Sufi or whatever, without a shadow of a doubt, there is nothing, not a thing to do with Sufism that will get you closer to Allah than just literally doing exactly. And I'm talking about action for action, word for word, practice for practice, exactly what Rasulullah did. Nothing more, nothing less. Nothing is going to get you closer to Allah than that. And I'm willing to put it on the line. And you can let any Sufi come and prove it. What they're doing, how is, for instance, let me just say this. They dance around in a circle. If you think we go around in a circle, is that going to bring you closer to Allah than me, praying 2 or 4 or 8 rak'ah for the exact duration of time that you're going in a circle? It won't.
It won't.
But anyway, I could go on and on, but I'm already in trouble anyway. So I'm not really.
They say once you get wet, you might as well just jump in. So.
Yeah, it's right. You were supposed to get the rental car back by 8 p.m. It's already 10, so they're gonna charge me. They're gonna charge me for the whole day anyway. So
yeah, might as well. But all right, y'all. Anyway, again, challenges out there. Mubarak laid it out there for anybody, and again, you've seen how we dealt with our previous guests. We're not disrespectful and we're not belligerent. Willing to talk to anybody.
Educate us. Educate us on Sufism if we're ignorant. But
please,
we're ready.
With that, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
All right, assalam.
Okay.
Oh, ya Allah.
Ah, man.
That was